Chapter 34-31. How about giving me some face? Thousands. How could they possibly stand a chance against them? They were surrounded, as if they were trapped in the Five Fingers Mountain. The criminals wore cold smiles on their faces. The experts were as numerous as the clouds. Who would have thought we would stumble into the geniuses of the Institute? There are quite a number of them. This is going to be fun. An aged voice could be heard as an old man walked out with a smile. His eyes were filled with a magical aura, which turned out to be the reincarnation godly eyes. Third grade ultimate desolated body. Chu Yun's expression changed tremendously. The others quickly discussed among themselves too. Is there any way to break through? Brother Zhuang, can you open a gap? The experts on my side are all third-layer martial progenitors. Their strength is too strong. There's no way we can break through. Although I only have second-layer martial progenitors, their talents are all second-grade ultimate desolated bodies. Furthermore, there are so many of them, it's difficult for me to break through. The conclusion of the discussion was that they would not be able to escape even if they had wings. Left with no choice, they could only glare at Zhuang Mingming. However, Zhuang Mingming's expression was even uglier than theirs. Fellow criminals, how about giving me some face? Zhuang Mingming knew that it was impossible to fight them. Thus he had to resort to other methods. Face my ass. One of the criminals replied with a hollow laugh. You're just an ant. The words did not give Zhuang Mingming any face, causing him to be infuriated, but he did not dare to refute. However, we don't like to bully the weak with our numbers, so we'll give you a chance. There are quite a number of beauties among you. As long as you're willing to come to us, we'll let you leave alive. The old man with the reincarnation godly eyes suddenly said with a smile. In your dreams, we'd rather die than be humiliated. Someone beside Chu Yun immediately scolded furiously. This asshole. Zhuang Mingming was startled. His heart was filled with anger, but it was not toward the criminals, but toward the person who had just spoken. Currently, they had a chance to escape, but the person had dared to refute the criminals. Wasn't he trying to get everyone killed? One had to know that among the thousands of fugitives, most of them were no weaker than the ox god from before. That being said, many people apart from him had the same thought. Meanwhile, those criminals laughed. One of them attacked the one who spoke, a sword slashing out. Ghost energy roared. Ancestral power was extremely powerful. Boom. The body of the person who had spoken earlier exploded, unable to withstand a single blow. This further illustrated the gap between the two sides. Originally, I was only interested in a few little beauties, but now, I plan to keep all the little beauties. The Samsara God Eye Elder faintly smiled after killing the student. All right, I promise you. However, can you guarantee their safety? Zhuang Yanming asked the old man. Sure. We have been trapped here for tens of thousands of years. It has been a long time since we tasted love. As for ordinary women, we do not fancy them. Only those with the ultimate desolate body are worthy of us. Furthermore, although we are fugitives who kill people like scything flax, we still have our principles. The Samsara God Eye Elder said, I'll give you one incense stick of time to consider. Chuyin, what do you think? Everyone immediately started discussing. The only outcome of rejecting a wanted criminal was death. If they agreed, they would still have a chance. However, those girls would have to suffer. Chu Yun, Fairy Xian Yen, Ear Pendant, and the other girls' faces turned cold. Were they going to sell their bodies? We will not force you. However, whether this matter is good or bad, you can evaluate it yourselves. Furthermore, if we leave this place alive, we will owe you a favor. You can consider it yourselves. That's right. It was not easy for us to reach the final world. On the path of martial arts, there are times when you have to give up certain things. It all depends on how firm your heart is in martial arts. Zhuang Yanming and the others said. Chu Yun and the rest were still hesitating. Compared to ordinary girls, they were clearly more decisive. They would not panic when faced with such a situation. However, for the sake of martial arts, they would have to sell their most precious bodies. This was something they could not accept. Time's up. At this moment, the old man's cold voice sounded. He smiled at the crowd and said, What do you think? I agree. Determination appeared in Chu Yun's eyes as she nodded. You are the prettiest. I thought you would be like those silly girls and value those things. However, you are not bad. You know that on the path of martial arts, you have to give up certain things. After all, if you refuse, you will die and your life will end. The old man nodded in satisfaction. How could Chu Yun not know this? However, she also felt uncomfortable. What about the rest of you? Chuyin agreed. Hence, the criminal looked at the other girls. I agree too. Ear Pendant was the second to nod. As an assassin, she had stricter requirements for herself. Me. However, the other girls still could not let go of the humiliation. Fairy Xan Yen, whether we live or die depends on you. Zhuang Yanming immediately looked at Fairy Xan Yen. He knew that more girls had to agree before the other girls would follow suit. Fairy Xan Yen immediately looked at Zhuang Yanming angrily. Although Zhuang Yanming did not force them, at such a critical moment, Zhuang Yanming did not protect them. This was too disappointing. In fact, the other girls also felt the same way about Zhuang Yanming. Zhuang Yanming spoke well at the start. However, in the face of a strong enemy, he still compromised. This kind of character was indeed disappointing. I agree. At this moment, Fairy Xan Yen finally made her decision. On the other hand, Zhuang Yanming and the rest smiled. Finally, they had escaped another calamity. It's not easy to survive for a year. However, Zhuang Yanming still comforted her. Hearing this, Fairy Xan Yen bit down hard on her red lips, and her eyes became moist. Was she going to give her body to those dirty criminals? Hee, this lovely little beauty just happens to suit my taste. I want her first. One of the criminals could not hold it in any longer. He walked down from the sky towards Fairy Xan Yen. As for the other criminals, they licked their lips and were about to make their move. However, at this moment, a figure blocked in front of Fairy Xan Yen. Criminals, right? How about you give me some face, and let them go? The one who appeared in front of Fairy Xan Yen was actually Lin Ling. This D*Ned bastard. Zhuang Yanming and the rest were stunned. They were furious. It was not easy for them to settle this matter. In the end, Lin Ling came to cause trouble. One had to know that the criminals could have killed them all and snatched the girls away. Moreover, after they had humiliated the girls, they might even kill them. At least for now, the girls would be able to live after giving up their bodies. Lin Ling, what are you doing? Zhuang Yanming roared in anger. Chapter 34-32. Heavenly Soul Demon Bone. Who do you think you are? Why should I give you face? The old man sneered. He was unhappy. Originally, he wanted to kill all these people, but the women in this group were very beautiful, and they were tempted. Moreover, they didn't like to use force, so they gave these people a chance. Who knew that these people didn't take the chance, and there were still people who came out to act tough. Were they looking for death? Who am I? Lin Ling's face was still calm. He suddenly pondered, then looked up and said, I'm someone you can't afford to offend. The moment he said that, the 5 Fingers Mountain fell silent. Murderous intent appeared in the criminals, and Zhuang Junming and the others trembled. This lunatic. All along, Lin Ling's personality was strange, and they all secretly called Lin Ling a lunatic. After all, who would provoke the vice president, force a teacher to kneel, and act like he didn't fit in with the group? But who knew that Lin Ling's lunacy had no bottom line? Ha ha ha, someone I can't afford to offend. I haven't heard this sentence for tens of thousands of years. The old man was stunned, and he laughed out of anger. Just based on your fearless personality, I won't let you live, because being merciful to a proud guy is also a humiliation to him. The moment the old man said that, Chu Yun, Fairy Xan Yen, and the others looked at Lin Ling. Being surrounded by thousands of criminals, Zhuang Junming and the others would only surrender. It was completely different from the protection they had promised at the beginning. Instead, the fearless Lin Ling walked out. Just like in the Snow Wind Academy, he wasn't afraid of the dean, he wasn't afraid of the teachers, and here, he wasn't afraid of the criminals. Let me. At this time, a criminal jumped down from the sky, and his powerful strength exploded, ready to attack Lin Ling. Zhuang Yanming, we have to help Lin Ling, he came out to speak for us. Chu Yun's opinion of Lin Ling had changed, and he said anxiously, How can we help? Zhuang Yanming was stunned, and he shook his head helplessly. Thousands of strong cultivators here. Help? That's more like courting death. We can't help at all. We could have turned big things into small things, but he just had to talk too much. The others also nodded with a helpless look on their faces. At this moment, the criminal in the sky had already made his move. A huge saber hung high in the starry sky, and countless skeletons floated out, transforming into a huge skeletal saber. This saber was obtained from the starry sky forest. It was said that there was a small piece of God's bone within it. Tianhun Demon Bone. The expert who attacked let out a cold voice and slashed down with his saber. Tianhun Demon Bone Gate. Chu Yun's expression immediately changed as he stared at the gigantic blade that seemed to be able to split the heavens and earth. Could this be the heavenly soul demonic bone gate that has disappeared for 10,000 years? Sister Chu, what is the heavenly soul demon bone gate? Fairy Xian Yen asked immediately. 10,000 years ago, it was an extremely famous sect. Their cultivation required the bones of tens of millions of people. Therefore, they killed countless people and accumulated countless bones, infuriating the 9 provinces. Later, the Miao Prefecture's celestial emperor took action, but was killed. In the end, it was the gods who destroyed the sect. The current Miao Prefecture's celestial emperor took the position because of the fall of the previous celestial emperor. Then wouldn't Lin Ling be in trouble? Fairy Xian Yen started to worry. The backgrounds of these criminals were all extraordinary. It's not just trouble, he's dead meat. Zhuang Yanming immediately shook his head and said, a second-level martial ancestor with a second-grade ultimate desolate body. How could Lin Ling withstand this? Rumble. The huge saber slashed down, and tens of thousands of bones flew everywhere. Lin Ling, be careful. Fairy Xian Yen subconsciously yelled. Don't worry, this bit of strength can't shake me. However, to everyone's surprise, Lin Ling actually turned around and spoke to Fairy Xian Yen. Turn around? He was too confident. Swords from the gods. At that moment, Lin Ling finally attacked. He also knew that the criminal's strength was not weak. Therefore, he merged his 5 dantians and unleashed his godly demon body. He slashed at the sky with 70% of his demonic sword steps. Furthermore, he could see that the ancestral force of the saber was ferocious, but it needed time to accumulate its aura. Therefore, he attacked first. 300 world speed burst out. In an instant, he arrived before the bone saber, giving the criminal a fright. He knew that this young man's cultivation was the lowest, but he did not expect this young man to be so fast. Clang! A ferocious sword slashed at the sky. The saber and sword collided, and the wind and clouds surged. Rumble! The 5 fingers of the 5-finger mountain were instantly broken, and a shockwave rolled out. Then 2 figures were sent flying. The criminal was sent flying 100 meters away, while Lin Ling was sent flying a few hundred meters away. However, the crowd was shocked. Lin Ling was not dead. What a strange kid. The old man with the reincarnation god eyes frowned. He was only at the 5th stage of the sage realm, but his world essence was comparable to the martial ancestor realm. Kid, I underestimated you. You are the first person in the sage realm who can force me to retreat. The criminal held the saber in his hand and looked at Lin Ling seriously. You are wrong. I am the first person in the sage realm who can kill you. On the other side, Lin Ling knew that he could not kill the criminal by normal means, so he decided to use his trump card. Great Calamity Destroying Sun Bao. Roar! A dragon god roared, but Lin Ling grabbed it with his left hand. It was as if he was grabbing an ancient dragon, reversing the universe. This action shocked Chu Yun and the others. This guy is too fierce. Dragon God Bloodline. Zhuang Yanming's eyes trembled. This was the first time he saw Lin Ling unleash his Dragon God Bloodline. However, the pressure made it difficult for him to breathe. Brother Zhuang, his Dragon God aura seems to be stronger than yours. The others also spoke one after another. At this moment, Lin Ling held the 5-meter-long dragon bow in his hand. The bone bow trembled and emitted a threatening aura. This bow is extraordinary. The criminal finally knew how powerful Lin Ling is. He also knew that he could not let Lin Ling shoot the arrow. Die! He held the bone saber in his hand and unleashed an earth-shattering power of world essence to attack Lin Ling. With one slash, heaven and earth would be destroyed. However, at this moment, countless Lin Ling appeared in the sky. They all held the dragon bow in their hands, as if a divine general had descended. At this moment, the criminal's eyes trembled. Which one of them is real? No, he must seize the time and kill that kid before he shoots the arrow. Rumble! The powerful bone saber erupted. If a god blocked it, it would kill a god. If a Buddha blocked it, it would destroy a Buddha. A large number of Lin Ling were killed. All of this seemed to be real. However, this was only the illusion god true inheritance. The purpose of using this soul force martial art was to delay for a certain amount of time. Time's up! A cold voice finally sounded. In the sky, 10,000 dragons roared. Countless dragon gods shot down like meteors. 10,000 arrows piercing the heart. Great solar calamity destroying Bao's fifth arrow. 10,000 Buddha's greeting. In the sky, the light of Buddha God illuminated all living beings. Tens of thousands of arrows shot towards the criminal. Boom, 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 boom. The criminal's bone blade was shattered, and he was sent flying backwards by the impact. However, there were too many Dragon God arrows. He could block 100 arrows, 1,000 arrows, but he could not block 10,000 arrows. Boom. Chapter 34-33. Plead for leniency. I already said, don't provoke me. The entire mountain range was silent. Only Lin Ling's voice could be heard. Chu Yun and the rest were stunned. A guess appeared in their minds. Could it be that the person who killed the dragon god was Lin Ling? Zhuang Jinming's face was extremely pale. A feeling of humiliation rose in his heart. He thought that he was the one who killed the ox god. Kill him. However, at this time, the old man with the samsara eyes said coldly. They had been in the starry sky forest for many years. It had been a long time since they met such a fierce junior. It made him feel that his dignity was being challenged. All the criminals looked at Lin Ling, their eyes filled with dense killing intent. The sky was filled with criminals. They were densely packed, and their aura was extremely terrifying. No matter how strong Zhuang Yanming and the rest were, even if they had seen countless storms, they were scared silly at this moment. They did not dare to move at all. Lin Ling was expressionless. He did not say anything and no longer held back. His soul force spread out like a sea urchin and fused the heavenly dragon's bone with the great nether wind dragon's talent. Rumble! A huge figure grew like bamboo shoots after a rain and turned into a monster that was even bigger than the five-finger mountain. This monster was completely black, but it had dragon claws on its left and right hands. It gave people a chilling feeling. The most terrifying thing was that such a huge monster was not slow at all. It had the speed of 500 world boundaries. The expressions of the criminals who came to encircle them changed greatly at this moment. However, Lin Ling had already made his move. Rumble! Heaven and earth shook. Many people could not see Lin Ling's move clearly. Instead, they could see experts smashing down from the sky. In just a short incense stick's time, the criminals who attacked were either dead or injured. The murderous aura from before had disappeared. He blocked all the criminals by himself. Chu Yun covered her mouth. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. Was this still a student who came in through the back door? With such strength, he still needed to come in through the back door? Dragon God bloodline. No one was more surprised than solemn clarity. From Lin Ling's body, he could sense the demeanor of a king. If he was the dragon god, then Lin Ling was the king of the dragon gods. Heavens, this kind of guy was the Lin Ling he wanted to teach a lesson to. The mountain range was silent as the giant walked over, looking down at the samsara god eye elder. In that case, do you think I'm someone you can afford to offend? As his voice drifted out, everyone was shocked. The old man with the samsara god eye stood in the sky, his face alternating between green and white. He had not expected this youth to be so strong. Not even an early-stage martial ancestor was his match. However, he was worthy of being an old monster who had lived for tens of thousands of years. He suppressed his surprise and said indifferently, I admit that you are indeed very strong. However, in this world, no matter how strong an individual is, they can't outlast a large number of people. Now that I'm here, do you think you can stop us? As expected of an ambitious and ruthless character, he did not plan to fight Lin Ling one-on-one. Instead, he joined the battle himself and joined forces to fight Lin Ling. Samsara God eye. However, Lin Ling sneered. His eyebrows twitched, and a giant ancient steel appeared in the sky. It hovered in the sky, exuding a majestic aura. Of the 6 great god eyes of the universe, the space-time god eye, the old man with the samsara god eye was shocked once more. He felt as disgusted as a fly. This youth's talent was too terrifying. He also had 6 great god eyes of the universe. What do you think? While he was still in shock, Lin Ling also let out a low growl. Do you think I'm afraid of you? We've cultivated for tens of thousands of years. Can a junior intimidate us? The old man with the samsara god eye was riding a tiger and had no way to back down. If it were any other occasion, he would not have provoked Lin Ling. However, the arrow was on the bow and he had to shoot it. If he retreated, the criminals in the surrounding area would no longer trust him. And if he had no status in the starry sky forest, he would be mercilessly eliminated. However, Just as the two sides were about to fight, several figures suddenly appeared in the sky and shouted, "Wait!" Limu. The old man with the samsara god. I clearly recognized this person. This person was very famous in the surrounding area, and even had a good relationship with him. You can't provoke this person. After these people arrived, they first looked at Lin Ling in shock, and then spoke anxiously. They were the criminals that Lin Ling had encountered before. Everything was as they had guessed. When Lin Ling used his full strength, he could indeed shake an early-stage martial ancestor. This strength was truly terrifying. Fortunately, they did not attack at that time. "How about you give me some face?" the person said again. Chu Yun and the others were stunned. Did they hear wrong? A criminal was actually speaking up for Lin Ling? After all, shouldn't criminals kill them as quickly as possible? Lin Ling must have curried favor with that criminal, so that criminal spoke up for him. Someone immediately said. The other students immediately nodded. This was the only explanation that made sense. "Why did you speak up for this person?" "The old man with the samsara god," I said with a frown. "Because I don't want you to make a big mistake. Moreover, I owe him a favor, so I have to repay it. After all, if he didn't give me face, we would all be dead already," the person said gravely. Hearing this, the old man with the samsara god eyes pupils trembled. He had also thought that this criminal had spoken up because Lin Ling had curried favor with him. But now he knew that this was not the reason for Lin Ling's favor, but because these criminals feared Lin Ling. "Limu, you and I are equal in strength. I will give you face, but it's very difficult now. If I compromise, how will I convince the others?" The old man with the samsara god eyes expression suddenly turned cold. "Limu, I see that you are a friend, so I'll let you leave. If you insist on doing this, then don't blame me for attacking you." "Samsara god I, don't make a big mistake." Limu angrily roared. "Haha, we're criminals. We can be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. Today I'll say it. Even if we're all wiped out, I'll keep this brat here. Moreover, if we all fight to the death, this brat might not be able to stop us." The old man sneered. "You really won't compromise?" Limu clenched his teeth. "When have I, the samsara god I, ever gone back on my word? When have I, the samsara god I, ever feared death? If I go back on my word, I'll leave this place upside down. Is this enough?" The old man with the samsara god, I seemed to want everyone to know his resolve. Zhuang Yanming and the others immediately paled. They would not rest until one of them was dead. "Fine, but what if that lord comes forward?" But Limu spoke up once more. "Haha, the starry sky forest has countless lords. I wonder who you're talking about? But it's useless. No one can change my mind." The old man with the samsara god I chuckled and then spoke, emphasizing each word. But just as he spoke, the sky seemed to twist, and then a pair of ancient eyes looked down at the heavens. "And if it's me? Yes." Chapter 34-34. The leader of the criminals, the ninth god I. Another I's talent? What a joke. There's already the space-time god I and the samsara god I here. What right does the talent of the other I's have to be arrogant here? Scram. The samsara god I elder disdainfully chuckled. In the entire universe, when it came to god I's, there were only 6 strongest people. The other god I's were nothing more than clay chickens and pottery dogs in his eyes. And now, 2 god I's had appeared here. Could another god I have appeared? If that was the case, then god I's were too worthless. "You want me to scram?" The eye that appeared in the sky seemed somewhat surprised. "That's right, I want you to scram. Scram. No one can stop my heart." The samsara god I elder raised his head and roared, his samsara god I meeting the mysterious eye in the sky. His voice was very loud, and he constantly shouted the word scram. However, it was very loud at the start, but it gradually became softer. In the end, he was the only one who could hear the word scram. The other criminals also had an overbearing aura at the start, but when they saw the elders change, they were all confused. What was going on? Didn't the boss say that he wouldn't give face to anyone? Didn't the boss's tone not have the slightest hint of compromise? Scram, scram, scram. The elder was still muttering to himself, but cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. This was because that pair of god eyes finally gave him a sense of familiarity. This person was not a criminal from the starry sky forest, but had just arrived. However, his strength was monstrous, and he had subdued a large number of criminals. He could be called the boss of criminals. And it was precisely because he had just arrived that the elder had not been able to react for a moment. You are the ninth boss. The elder let out a terrified voice. He knew that the situation was grave. Samsara God I, your courage has grown. You dare to call yourself a king in front of me? I'll ask you one thing right now. Will you compromise or not? An angry voice came from the sky. I like stubborn fellows the most, so you can try if you don't want to compromise. At this moment, Sheng Daiming and the others were stunned because they noticed that they hadn't just encountered a formidable fugitive. They seemed to have encountered the most terrifying fugitive amongst all the fugitives. While they were still in a daze, the Samsara God I suddenly charged at Lin Ling and kneeled. Little brother, I apologize for offending you before. I'm just a braggart, so please don't take my words seriously. In truth, I knew from the very start that you were extraordinary and never planned to continue fighting. After all, I didn't want to see a peerless genius injured here. Please forgive me, forgive me. This kind of attitude caused the world to fall silent. Previously, this old man was extremely stubborn and refused to give face to anyone who came. He insisted on fighting to the death with Lin Ling. Everyone thought that he was the kind of person who would rather be killed than humiliated. But now, he compromised faster than anyone else. No, he surrendered. The fugitive surrendered. And it was the leader of the criminals who surrendered. Everyone from the Wind Snow Academy was stunned. They had heard countless stories about the Starry Sky Forest, but they had never heard of a fugitive surrendering to a student. At this moment, Lin Ling had also returned to his original form. He frowned and looked at the sky. Who was that person? Little brother, you have to say a few good words for me. In front of him, the old man was about to cry and kept saying, who is he? Lin Ling's eyes were still looking at the sky as he frowned. Hearing this, the old man was stunned. This young man doesn't know the leader? What kind of joke is this? He is one of the leaders of all the fugitives in the Starry Sky Forest, and among the 6 great god eyes of the universe, he is also my leader. He is the 9th god eye. The old man quickly said. Lin Ling was stunned. The 9th god eye? Isn't this the old man I saved in the Yen States arena? Ha ha, little guy, we meet again. At this moment, an old man in a black robe walked down from the sky. His aura was extraordinary, and there were signs of space distortion around him. The 9th god eye, the strongest god eye of the 6 great god eyes of the universe. If Lin Ling did not remember wrongly, this old man was a demigod-like existence. No wonder all the fugitives were afraid of him. Coupled with the 9th god eye's temperament, even the fiercest fugitives would be beaten into submission by him. Little brother, help me. I'm very afraid of death. At this moment, the Samsara god eye old man was still looking at Lin Ling, his eyes moist. He was about to cry. He was waiting for Lin Ling to say something. If Lin Ling did not spare him, the 9th god eye would definitely kill him. Lin Ling looked at the ground and then said, forget it. Let them leave, and I won't pursue this matter. Of course, if they lose a single hair, I'll hold you responsible. Okay. Little ancestor, whatever you say. The old man was overjoyed. He looked at the fugitives and said, do you see them? Do you remember them? You have to protect them well. If they lose a single hair, I'll take your heads. Yes. All the fugitives nodded their heads. As for Chu Yun, Fairy Xianyan, and the rest, they were stunned. They were going to be protected by the fugitives? Didn't they have to avoid the fugitives in the Starry Sky Forest? This result was beyond their imagination. Undoubtedly, they were also very shocked. If they passed the freshman trial because of the fugitives' protection, when they returned, they would probably become the world's first. You can leave now. Lin Ling looked at them and said. Of course, he looked more at Fairy Xianyan. Thank you. Everyone bowed to Lin Ling. Today, Lin Ling had given them too much of a shock. Was this what they thought of as a student who got in through the back door? Next, Chu Yun and the rest left one after another. Zhuang Yanming's face was dispirited, as if he was sincerely convinced. In terms of strength, he was inferior to Lin Ling. In terms of talent, Lin Ling's dragon god was his ancestor. In terms of protection, he was now being protected by Lin Ling. As for the female students, after they left the Five Fingers Mountain, they immediately started chattering. Brother Lin Ling is so handsome. Yeah, when he just entered the academy, I already felt that he had a unique charm. After all, he is the only one who dares to not fear the vice principal. We all owe him a favor. At least we don't have to pay with our bodies. Who said that you owe Lin Ling a favor? You can repay him with your body. I don't care. If Brother Lin Ling asks, I will immediately send myself to him. Sluts. After surviving a calamity, the female students were undoubtedly very happy and joked with each other. As for the male students, their faces were gloomy. At this moment, Lin Ling did not leave the Five Fingers Mountain. He had already obtained the Astral Origin Stone, so he planned to go deeper into the Starry Sky Forest. Senior, thank you, Lin Ling said to the ninth god eye. Haha, no need. The last time you helped me escape, I didn't even have time to thank you. But I didn't expect that in just a few years, you would come to the final world. Chapter 34-35. Working together. The other criminals looked at Lin Ling enviously. Only they knew how cruel the ninth god eye was. At least, none of them dared to speak to the ninth god eye like that. Earlier, I met a few criminals who talked about the space-time god eye of the 6 great god eyes of the universe. I knew it was you, so I rushed over and immediately saw you. The ninth god eye said. Lin Ling smiled and suddenly asked, Senior, are you the expert who gathered the criminals in the Starry Sky Forest and plans to enter the depths? That's right, that's me. Are you interested? The ninth god eye knew that Lin Ling was not weak, so he invited Lin Ling because I followed Flame Emperor and the others here. I know that they are searching for a treasure in the Starry Sky Forest, so I want to disturb them. The ninth god eye said coldly. In the past, if not for Flame Emperor and the others, he would not have been trapped for so many years. Of course, this is my personal grudge. If you refuse to join us, it doesn't matter. The ninth god eye said. Lin Ling was delighted. Senior, I'll join because Flame Emperor is also one of my enemies. Right, who else entered the Starry Sky Forest? The Heavenly Court, the Divine Escort Mansion, the Flying Dragon Organization, and so on are all my enemies. It's because they are all here that I came to cause trouble. The ninth god eye said. With his strength, Flame Emperor alone was not enough to subdue him. It was because the other factions had joined forces. Lin Ling was even more pleasantly surprised. He immediately named his enemy. The two of them immediately hit it off. Ha ha ha, I've finally found someone to my liking. In the past, you caused havoc in the Yen state. Today, I'll cause chaos in the 9 states with you. The ninth god eye was also very happy. Lin Ling's strength alone was unmatched. How could he not be excited to have such a helper? He also knew that many people from the various factions had come to the Starry Sky Forest. He alone could not fight against all of them. Senior, do you know their general location? Lin Ling hurriedly asked. I know the general direction. Why don't we set off immediately? All right. Lin Ling followed the ninth god eye, and the ninth god eye led a large number of criminals into the depths. As time passed, Lin Ling suddenly realized that the Starry Sky Forest was very big. Previously, he was only at the periphery. After walking past the periphery, although there were still criminals, there were obviously not many of them. On the contrary, there were many great forces from the 9 prefectures. There were those who were famous and those who weren't. It was as if they had gathered here for some treasure. With so many great powers gathered here, the treasure must be extraordinary. Senior Ninth, are there any other forces other than the great forces you mentioned? Lin Ling could not help but ask. I heard that the 9 prefectures' 10 evils are also here. However, these sneaky people have always been secretive. So, until now, I still don't know who the 9 prefectures' 10 evils are. Then why are they gathered here? I don't know about that either. Lin Ling and the others chatted as they walked. They were even more curious about the treasure, and Lin Ling was looking forward to finding the Mahakasyapa incantation. The further they went, the fewer ancient trees they saw. On the contrary, the ancient aura was even thicker. White mountains of varying heights appeared before them, exuding a mysterious melody under the starry sky. I heard that these ancient mountains were formed from the bones of gods. When gods fell here, they transformed into these mountains. The 9th god eye indifferently said. Lin Ling nodded. It was no wonder that his methods had not been able to cause the heavens to crumble and the earth to rend. This was because the earth and sky here seemed to have been formed from the bodies of gods. The starry sky forest hid far too many secrets of gods. Rumble. At this moment, a rumbling came from up ahead. It seemed like a great battle was taking place. Everyone be careful. Don't expose yourself. The 9th god eye immediately warned. At present, before he could figure out the enemy's goal, he did not want to expose himself. Lin Ling, follow me. The 9th god eye called out to Lin Ling, and the two stealthily advanced. The battle up ahead was extremely intense. On a rather short hill, tensome people wielded weapons and erupted with powerful strength to resist the skeletons around them. There were many skeletons around them, their bodies glowing with a jade-like light. At this moment, they were slowly encircling them. Kill! These skeletons were extremely extraordinary. These people had long ago realized this, so they pushed their techniques to their limits and destroyed the skeletons one after another. Damn, these skeletons are tough enough. I, a martial ancestor, only managed to destroy one after tensome blows. Under the influence of god bones, these skeletons have long since given birth to half-god bones, so they're definitely tough. That's right. They're not part of the 6 paths of samsara and aren't bound by the laws of the universe. They exist in an extremely strange domain of the world. Perhaps only gods can punish them. Enough nonsense. Hurry up and attack, or else these skeletons will surround us. Rumble. Waves of light shot out, sending the skeletons flying back. Although the skeletons were tough, they could not endure the constant attacks of the experts. Crack. Gradually, cracks began to appear on the skeletons, and after a few more attacks, they finally shattered. Bang! 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 The skeletons fell one after another, leaving behind specks of light. These were the fragments of the skeletons, which contain the aura of gods. Swoosh! However, at this moment, a cold light flashed. Ah! One of the experts immediately let out a cry of pain, and then his entire body was chopped into pieces. On the hill, the figure of a ghost demon shuttled back and forth, taking away a life every time it appeared. What's going on? The remaining people also noticed something. Oh no, there's another skeleton. Most importantly, this skeleton's speed is extremely fast. I'm afraid it's at the speed of 400 worlds. Someone's hair stood on end. That was because although the skeletons before were terrifying, their speed was extremely slow. Now, there was finally one that could move faster. Ah! While the crowd was still in shock, another person was killed. Heart power wheel. At this moment, the strongest person unleashed his talent. A black wheel appeared in the sky, rolling and emitting a metallic luster. The wheel of strength continued to shrink as it surrounded the hill. It's trapped on the hill. Everyone surround it and kill it. That person roared furiously. Ding ding dang dang. At the same time, the black metal wheel emitted golden stars. Obviously, the skeleton also knew that it was trapped, so it attacked the heart power wheel in an attempt to escape. However, it was of no use. Caught it. Instead, the skeleton was locked onto by the experts, and terrifying attacks were launched at it. At the same time, everyone saw that this skeleton was actually completely green, completely different from the previous ones. Chapter 34-36. Translator, Nioibo Studio Editor. Nioibo Studio Secret. This skeleton has already gained sentience. Fear rose in everyone's heart. A skeleton with sentience was undoubtedly much more terrifying than those skeletons that could only walk. Go to hell. However, there was only one skeleton with sentience. Thus, with everyone's combined efforts, they were able to kill it. That was close. The starry sky forest is indeed terrifying. It is simply a world of divine bones. However, we have survived this calamity. Haha, that's right. Those who survive a calamity are bound to have good fortune in the future. Looking at the shattered skeleton, everyone laughed. I don't think so. However, at that moment, a laugh came from the bottom of the hill. 2 mysterious people in large cloaks slowly walked over. These 2 people were Lin Ling and the 9th god Ai. Lin Ling had 5 dantians and was adept at concealing his aura and strength. Thus, no one recognized him. The 9th god Ai was a half-step to martial god. His ability to distort space was very strong. Even his aura was distorted. Naturally, no one could guess who he was. Your Excellencies, who are you? The faces of the people on the hill turned cold. These 2 people had waited for them to kill all the skeletons before appearing. How cunning! If you don't speak, die. However, the people were only afraid of the skeletons. It did not mean that they were afraid of Lin Ling and the 9th god Ai. Most importantly, their backgrounds weren't small at all. I should be the one asking you this question. However, the 2 people at the bottom of the hill did not stop walking. One of them said flatly, I am from the New Heavenly Court. I am from Fuxing Manor. I am from the Duan family. The experts spoke one after another. They did not hide their identities. Perhaps their identities were what they were proud of. Now you know who we are, right? Now, tell Tell us your names and leave your lives behind." Then, everyone looked at Lin Ling and the ninth god Eye and sneered. Just as I expected. However, I am very curious. Why are all of you gathered here? Lin Ling had already guessed their origins. Thus, he was not surprised. In response to Lin Ling's question, the powerhouses fell silent. Dead people don't need to know so much. They were already planning to make their move. Haha, you said before that if you survive a great disaster, you are bound to have good fortune in the future. Unfortunately, your disaster has yet to recede. Lin Ling also knew that if he didn't make a move, he wouldn't be able to get what he wanted to know. After exchanging a glance with the ninth god Eye, he took off his cloak and charged forward. That group of people had never imagined that Lin Ling and his companion would be so arrogant. Just the two of them dared to attack them first. However, only after the collision did they realize how terrifying these two people were. It was practically enough to kill one of them with a single move. One of them, in particular, had the ability to distort space and kill several people with a single move. In just the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, a large number of experts had died. The remaining people were all kneeling on the ground, their bodies trembling. They were martial progenitor realm experts who had experienced countless battles of life and death. Under normal circumstances, they would not beg for mercy. However, the precondition was that both sides had to be equal in strength. But now one side was far stronger than the other. They simply couldn't win. "Sirs, how about you let us go? We won't speak of today's matter to anyone else." One of the begging experts said with a frown. "Let me ask you something. What faction are you from, and who has come from your faction?" Lin Ling looked down at the speaker. "I'm from the Duan clan. Many experts from my Duan clan have come, but young Master Duan Yi is currently presiding over everything. I'm from the New Heavenly Court, and am currently on the other side. Lord Ningbo Tao is presiding over everything." These experts didn't dare to hide anything. Lin Ling and the ninth god Eye glanced at each other. They suddenly sensed that the reaction caused by this treasure was even greater than they had imagined. This was because more people from the various factions were coming. "What have you come for?" Lin Ling put away his thoughts and asked once more. These experts immediately grimaced and frowned. "Sirs, we also don't know. Don't force us. What if I insist on knowing?" Lin Ling frowned. These people had been willing to talk about anything, but when it came to treasures, they became stubborn. These experts glanced at each other and sighed. Then, blood flowed from their lips as their souls scattered. "Dead." The ninth god Eye immediately frowned. These people were willing to kneel to them for the sake of survival, but when it came to treasures, they were willing to throw away their lives. This meant that the secret of this treasure was even more frightening than they had imagined. Perhaps they didn't know what the treasure was, but they swore blood oaths to never reveal anything about it. Thus, when they saw that we were determined to continue asking, they knew that they were doomed and committed suicide. Lin Ling indifferently said, "Lin Ling, if we don't know their goal and act rashly, we might end up alerting them," the ninth god Eye said. "In truth, these people might not know what the treasure is, but I'm guessing that someone should know. His name is Duan Yi, and it's said that he's a 2-talisman divine paladin. He's an early-stage martial ancestor." Lin Ling said as he looked into the distance. An early-stage martial ancestor can become a 2-talisman divine paladin? It seems that this person has a good relationship with the gods. This means that his background is not small. He definitely knows where the treasure is. How about we go find him? The ninth god Eye immediately smiled. Lin Ling nodded, his eyes cold. "I have a great enmity with him. If martial god Wentian hadn't interfered, I would have killed him long ago. Now it's time for me to settle this grudge." In the past, Azure Province had welcomed a large number of experts. Although all the martial ancestors had been killed by Lin Ling, the mastermind, Duan Yi, had not. At that time, martial god Wentian had come and taken Duan Yi away. Moreover, if the old woman hadn't appeared, martial god Wentian would have killed Lin Ling. Now, without martial god Wentian, Lin Ling didn't believe that Duan Yi could still fly. "Let's go. They should be in the vicinity. Let's find Duan Yi first. There are many experts in the vicinity. We have to be careful." The two of them took away the skeleton fragments on the ground and continued stealthily. The ninth god Eye wasn't afraid of these large factions. He just wanted to figure out their goal before taking revenge. As they traveled along the ancient earth, Lin Ling's group once again encountered people from the various large factions. However, this time, Lin Ling's group avoided them and didn't cause any conflict. Moreover, by following the tracks of these people, Lin Ling and the ninth god, I gradually learned of Duan Yi's whereabouts. Duan Yi was at the eastern side of an enormous ancient mountain. After half a day, an ancient mountain appeared in front of them. Not only was this mountain enormous, it also gave off a strange feeling. It was extremely majestic, as if a god was sitting there. This mountain was clearly a divine mountain. Even martial ancestors might not be able to destroy it. The ninth god I exchanged glances with Lin Ling. They both sensed that this mountain was extraordinary. However, they also followed the ancient mountain and slowly approached Duan Yi. Chapter 34-37. Edited by Mike. Here my place is broken. After a long while, Lin Ling and the ninth god I stood at the base of a hill and looked into the distance. There were many tents there, just like an army camp. A flag fluttered in the wind under the starry sky, a large Duan character emblazoned upon it. The Duan clan was ultimately the #1 clan in the world, on par with the Wangu clan of the Yen province. Of course, this did not mean that the Wangu clan was very powerful. It was just that amongst all the clans in the 9 provinces, the Wangu clan was the closest to the Duan clan. Senior Ninth, are there any experts? Lin Ling turned to the ninth god I and asked. The ninth god I immediately smiled. The strongest is a late-stage martial ancestor. Perhaps the experts of the Duan clan have not yet arrived, or perhaps they have arrived but are in another place. That's good. Lin Ling was delighted. The Duan clan was no small matter. If a peak martial ancestor was stationed here, they would find it very difficult to approach. Let's go. The two jumped off the hill and began to walk toward the tents. Because there were no experts here, they did not hide their tracks and were quickly spotted. Who are you? Who allowed you to approach? Scram. Furious shouts came from the distance as tensome people walked out. But Lin Ling's group continued forward, as if they had not heard anything. This is the territory of the Duan clan. Everything belongs to the Duan clan. Sirs, it's best if you don't seek death. What's the point of wasting words with them? Since they won't report where they came from, just kill them. The voices of the people who walked out grew colder and colder. The territory of the Duan clan? Lin Ling and the ninth god I glanced at each other and laughed. This was the Starry Sky Forest. When had it become the territory of the Duan clan? Sirs, you've seen the members of our Duan clan. So if you continue to walk forward, it's very likely that you'll die. Cultivation isn't easy. Don't waste a lifetime of hard work because of a moment of impulse. At this moment, an older old man said faintly. Lin Ling's group was less than 100 meters away from these people, but Lin Ling's group stopped. The members of the Duan clan laughed when they saw this. These two people weren't completely stupid. They finally didn't dare to approach them. You can leave now. The old man waved his hand, thinking that Lin Ling and the others had obeyed him. Wait! However, the people around him shouted. These people were younger and had been stationed here for many days. They were bored to death. Seeing that there were 2 idiots coming to play with them, they wanted to play with them. That's right. They can't leave yet. Our Duan clan is a clan of gods. How can they leave so easily? A woman said. Huh? The old man frowned. But soon a tall young man walked out. You can leave if you want, but you have to go through here. He spread his legs and pointed at his crotch. The people around were stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter. The old man was still frowning, but he soon shook his head helplessly. These little fellows seem to be bored out of their minds. It's been hard on them. They're young, but they have to stay here and endure the boredom. But it's fine. Let them play. He looked at Lin Ling's group and said, Gentlemen, I'm sorry. You could have left easily, but you're too close to the Duan clan's territory. So, you have to crawl through our crotch before you can leave. You should be grateful for our Duan clan's righteousness. He couldn't help but laugh when he reached the end. Since the old man had agreed, the surrounding people laughed even louder. Someone shouted, Perhaps, if you come here on your knees, seeing how sincere you are, you won't have to crawl into the crotch of someone's pants. With that, the person walked out and waved at Lin Ling's group. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a spatial fluctuation immediately came. In the next instant, a young man appeared in front of him with a sword hanging over his neck. The man's smile froze, and his pupils constricted. Who said we were leaving? The person who appeared was none other than Lin Ling. His expression was cold, and after saying this, he lightly slashed with the tyrant's song. Blood gushed out, and a head fell to the ground and rolled around. The eyes were filled with shock, as if he had died with everlasting regret. Perhaps they had never imagined that Lin Ling would attack in the Duan clan's territory. This sudden scene caused everyone to fall silent. Their smiles were still on their faces, but they were frozen in place. As for the tall youth, he was also dumbfounded. His spread legs were actually trembling. But at this moment, the ninth god I finally attacked. He was even faster, instantly appearing in front of the youth, coldly looking down at him, and lightly kicking. Moreover, he kicked between the youth's legs. Crack! The sound of an egg cracking could be heard. It was very ear-piercing. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. The tall youth was stunned, and then he hugged his legs and began to madly jump up and down. Ah, my place is broken. My place is broken. My fuck! His cries were extremely miserable. Impudent. The others felt a chill in their hearts. They no longer had their previous arrogance. Instead, they unleashed their strength and surrounded Lin Ling and the ninth god Ai. Their faces were filled with killing intent and anger. These two had actually killed someone from the Duan clan? Sirs, do you know what you're doing? The elder roared. The person who had died was the son of a major figure in the Duan clan, and he didn't know how to explain himself. I'm killing people. Can't you see? Surrounded by these people, Lin Ling showed no fear. Instead, he spoke indifferently. In the past, when Duani came to Qingzhou, he had almost killed everyone without hesitation. So why would Lin Ling hesitate when killing someone from the Duan clan? Everyone, there's no need to waste words with them. Inform the Duan clan. The woman in the crowd glared hatefully at Lin Ling and the ninth god Ai. Everyone immediately nodded. Through their previous actions, they could see that these two were extraordinary. If they really fought, even if they won, they would suffer countless casualties. This was not something they wanted to see. If you have the ability, wait for us for an incense stick's time, the old man said coldly. Wait. Putting aside the fact that Lin Ling was not afraid of them, even if he was, would they wait just because they said so? Only idiots would wait. Divine steal of time and space. Lin Ling let out a low roar, and a huge stone tablet came crashing down from the sky, suppressing everything. Rumble. The young man whose balls had been kicked was directly smashed into meat paste. A moment ago, he was inexplicably excited and wanted Lin Ling and the ninth god Ai to crawl under his pants. However, his balls had been broken and he had been smashed to death. It was quite tragic. Everyone from the Duan clan was stunned. These two people were so ruthless. Everyone unite and block them. Wait for the Duan clan's experts to arrive. Chapter 34-38. This person was a demigod. However, before she could finish her sentence, a figure had appeared in front of her. His hand reached out like a dragon's claw and grabbed her neck, rendering her speechless. Her eyes were wide open, and she could see the person in front of her through the brim of her hat. This person was very young, about the same age as Duani. This made her want to say something. Bang! However, the hand that was grabbing her neck tightened slightly, and her head tilted to the side. She could not be more dead. Although this woman was beautiful, she was also vicious and merciless. She was the one who had shouted the loudest, so Lin Ling showed no mercy. Duan Ling, The old man roared furiously, and his body trembled in anger. You'd better take care of yourself. However, a voice entered his ears. Then the space around him began to distort. Everything was stretched and shortened. It was an extremely terrifying sight. Under this power, the old man was forcibly distorted to death. Stop! At that moment, a furious roar finally came from the tent. A large number of figures charged out, led by an awe-inspiring man wearing golden armor and riding a fine horse. Duani, a two-talisman god holy knight. Next to him were several late-stage martial progenitors who were around the 7th level of the martial progenitor realm. It was extremely difficult to break through to the martial progenitor realm. Even if one possessed powerful natural treasures, it still depended on luck. Therefore, a 7th level martial progenitor realm expert was extremely rare even in the 9 provinces. Who are you? Duani rode his fine horse and stared coldly at Lin Ling and Duan Yi. You really don't need to know who we are. Lin Ling looked at Duan Yi and said with a smile. Why did you kill a member of the Duan family? Duan Yi asked again. Because I was bored. After all, I heard that this is the Duan family's territory and no one is allowed to come close. I made a bet with someone and thought that I could enter and leave this place as I pleased. Therefore, I came here to take a stroll." Lin Ling shrugged. In the past, Duani had gone to the Azure province out of boredom and wanted to prove that he was different from others. Therefore, Lin Ling had come here today with the same idea. "How dare you?" Duani was enraged. As the Duan family of the final world, no one had ever dared to provoke them like this. The reason was because they were bored. "That's why he's here, but I'm different." But at this moment, the ninth god I also said, "I just want to ask you, what is your Duan clan actually waiting for by setting up camp here? And is that place of treasure in the distant divine mountain?" The moment these words were spoken, the expressions of all the Duan clan members turned solemn. The ninth god I nodded, not at all surprised by the Duan clan's attitude. "It seems that you aren't willing to speak. However, I will kill you until you speak." He glanced at Lin Ling, who nodded and said, "Duan, it's time for us to settle some old scores." After he finished speaking, the tyrannical song sword flew out, and Lin Ling also pounced forward. The tyrannical song sword seemed to have a spirit as it followed Lin Ling. "Kill them." Seeing that the two were courting death, Duani immediately roared and pointed forward. The experts behind him charged out one after another. These experts were all at the initial stage of the martial ancestor realm. They also possessed the ultimate desolate body and were all second grade. Brat Die! Dark Frost Emperor's force. A palm reached out, its 5 fingers looking like twisted lightning. It was extremely ferocious. 20% of the power of an ancestor. Furthermore, the palm was getting closer and closer to Lin Ling, as if it would crush him in the next moment. Seeing this, many people immediately laughed. These two people were too weak to even withstand a single blow. But at this moment, something strange happened. A sword suddenly shot over and appeared in Lin Ling's hand. Then it slashed toward the sky. Rumble! That sword blocked the palm that twisted like lightning, causing the expert's expression to change. What a powerful boundary essence. Spacetime Divine Steel. Boom. Lin Ling did not even look at the expert as the corners of his mouth twitched. Above his head, the huge spacetime Divine Steel smashed down with a majestic aura. Not good. Uneasiness rose in the expert's heart. He wanted to retreat, but he realized that the sword in front of him was closing in. As long as he took a step back, there was a chance that he would be killed. How is this possible? The expert was extremely shocked. The person in front of him was too powerful. His realm essence was rich, and he had an additional physical strength. His physical strength was not much weaker than his realm essence. And that was not all. He could still control the steel to smash down. This meant that he was facing 2 experts at the same time. "Help me!" he roared, but it was too late. The spacetime Divine Steel smashed down and destroyed everything in its path. Splash! Blood spurted everywhere. A martial ancestor realm expert was smashed into a meat patty. What? All the experts who had rushed over were shocked. It's him. He's the son of the demon. At this moment, Duani finally realized something. That sword, the spacetime Divine Steel, everything was too familiar. Son of the demon? The others had obviously heard of this name. After all, the son of the demon was the person who had humiliated their young master Duan. They had also heard that if martial god Wen Tian had not intervened, their young master Duan would have died in the trashy Qingzhou. It's you. Duan Yi's eyes were as red as blood. He suddenly remembered Lin Ling's words. He had come because he was bored. The last time he went to the Qing province, it was because he was bored. He wanted to let everyone know that he could easily capture the son of the devil. Now Lin Ling was returning the favor. However, what was Lin Ling's background? What was his background? Did Lin Ling have the right to say that? Million Buddha's greeting. At this moment, Lin Ling floated up. The 5-meter-long dragon bow roared, and the light of the Buddha god enveloped the land. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless arrows of the dragon god shot out, as if they were going to cleanse the world. Seniors, stop him. Duani knew how terrifying Lin Ling's strength was. Not many early-stage martial progenitors could defeat him. Furthermore, Lin Ling had an even more terrifying move, which was to summon the dragon demons. Bastard! The few late-stage martial progenitors roared furiously. It seemed like they had no choice but to intervene. Their talents were not outstanding. They only possessed the second-grade ultimate desolated body. They had only reached this level by sacrificing their life force. This was a way to forcibly increase their strength by burning their lifespan. However, only one among 100 people could overcome the tribulation of life and death and reach the late-stage martial progenitor realm. Since their talents were not outstanding, they had to rely on their realm origin and progenitor's force. Their progenitor's force had reached 50%. If they attacked, they would surely be able to kill Lin Ling. However, before their attacks could reach Lin Ling, they were immediately distorted. Furthermore, the space around them was distorted as if they were being teleported. Distorted space. The expressions of the experts changed greatly. Are you the ninth god's eye? In terms of the ability to distort space, the ninth god's eye was the most famous among the 6 great gods' eyes. Chapter 34-39. I didn't kill you. No one could get close to Lin Ling. Instead, their bodies were constantly being pulled by the distorted space and gradually turned into nothingness. Looking at Lin Ling's side, his 10,000 Buddhas had also killed many people. Everyone, let's work together and kill the demon's son. Duani didn't dare to attack at all. He rode on his horse and roared, but the horse he was riding on was also trembling. That was because a huge black demon had appeared in front of them. It was neither a dragon nor a demon. The combination of its ominous aura and dragon aura was extremely terrifying. Rumble! That huge arm swept out, and no one could stop it. Blood rained down. It was Lin Ling. He had used his innate talent fusion transformation. His physical strength had reached the power of 5,000 realms. Who else could do it but him? What is this? The other members of the Duan family had never seen such a monster before. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. On one side was the distorted space, and on the other was the huge black demon. How could the Duan family block them? They were all killed one by one. At the same time, in the west, north, and other directions of the huge divine mountain, the various major forces were looking east with extremely grave expressions. That's the Duan family's territory. Did someone attack the Duan family? It seems that the 9 states' 10 evils are here too. Should we go and help? There's no need for that. The Duan family has more experts than this. Moreover, this is a sensitive period. The experts of the 9 states are all rushing over. If we act rashly, we will become a thorn in their side. Powerful forces like the Flying Dragon Organization, the New Heavenly Court, and the Divine Escort Mansion didn't make a move easily. Everything was for that treasure. Since they didn't make a move, the Duan family was naturally in a terrible situation. In the end, only one person was left. It was Duani. Run, Windchaser, run quickly. Duani kept urging the divine horse under him. However, the horse's limbs were trembling. It almost knelt down, let alone run. Obviously, it had recognized Lin Ling, so it didn't have the motivation to run. Instead, a huge giant looked down at Duan-E and said in a deep voice, Duan-E, what treasure are you waiting for? That divine mountain is where the treasure is unearthed. I don't. Duani said with a pale face as he shook his head continuously. He had already lost the will to fight because last time, Lin Ling could easily kill him, let alone this time. At this moment, he was filled with deep regret. If he had known earlier, he would not have provoked the son of Devil. The son of Devil was a complete madman. He dared to slay a deity, dared to kill a devil. How could he not dare to touch him? So what if they were holy knights? In the eyes of the son of Demon, they were nothing more than ants. If you don't speak, die. Lin Ling's cold voice rang out. Duani did not doubt Lin Ling's killing intent at all. Lin Ling would really kill him without hesitation. If I tell you, will you let me go? Duani raised his head and said. Although the treasure was a secret and could not be revealed, he was not as resolute as the other members of the Duan family when it came to death. They would rather die than say anything. In the end, it was because his status was higher and he didn't want to die here so easily. Of course, if you tell me, I swear that I won't kill you, Lin Ling said indifferently. He used his martial heart to swear a blood oath because he knew that an expert at Duan Yi's level would never reveal the origin of the treasure if he didn't swear a blood oath. Sure enough, Duan Yi was tempted. It's a god's bone, a genuine god's bone. Legend has it that whoever obtains it can become a deity. Duan Yi shouted. When he said this, his heart was beating violently as if he had said a mysterious taboo. God's bone. Lin Ling's expression changed slightly. There were 4 deities in the current world, but obtaining the god's bone would allow one to become the 5th deity. It was no wonder that so many great forces had gathered here. However, Lin Ling was still skeptical about the god's bone. How could such a convenient thing happen in the land of the 9 prefectures? Was the god's bone unearthed on the Divine Mountain? Lin Ling asked again. According to the records, it was indeed on the Divine Mountain. Moreover, there isn't just one god's bone in the starry sky world. There are countless of them. However, for now, only the god's bone from the Divine Mountain has been unearthed. Duani said. The starry sky world was also a god's tomb. Legend had it that during the Great War of the Deities, this was the place where the most deities had fallen. If these gods' bones were unearthed, the world would definitely be thrown into chaos. Countless experts would be born as a result. That's all I know. You should let me go now. Duani said at this moment. Lin Ling began to revert to his original form and walked over step by step. Duani's heart skipped a beat when he saw the cold look on his face. Of course, he felt even more humiliated. He was a god's sacred knight, yet he was afraid of a mortal from the land of the 9 prefectures. If this wasn't humiliating, what was? Lin Ling looked down at Duan-yi and shook his head. God's sacred knight? Trash. Get lost. Duan-yi clenched his teeth and galloped away on his horse. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He had to kill Lin Ling no matter what. After he left, he had to ask the Duan family's 4 talismans to use the god's sacred knight to tear Lin Ling into pieces. Rumble. However, he had only run a few hundred meters when the space around him began to distort. He and his horse began to spin around in the air. Lin Ling, you've gone against the heart of martial arts. Duani immediately jumped in fright and hurriedly roared. I didn't kill you. However, Lin Ling's voice drifted over clearly. He didn't kill you, but that doesn't mean I won't kill you. You might have misunderstood something. Lin Ling and I aren't together, and he isn't my boss. We're working together. On the other hand, the 9th God Eye's voice drifted over, causing Duan-yi's eyes to widen. If the 9th God Eye was Lin Ling's subordinate, then if the 9th God Eye killed him, the debt of death would be placed on Lin Ling's head. However, the 9th God Eye was not Lin Ling's subordinate. They were working together. Lin Ling had no right to order him around, so the blood oath was naturally invalid. Lin Ling, you tricked me. Duan-yi roared in unwillingness, but his body began to dissipate bit by bit. Like a leaf caught in a giant whirlpool, he began to disintegrate as the whirlpool spun around him. Most importantly, this was no ordinary whirlpool, but a spatial whirlpool. After a long while, the 9th God Eye returned and smiled at Lin Ling, the Duan family. I remember that they also sent experts to kill me. Today, I'll take back some interest. Let's go. We can't stay here for long. Lin Ling also smiled. Now that he had gotten his revenge, he felt much better. The 2 of them disappeared from the ancient world under the starry sky. It didn't take long for the news of Duan-yi's death to spread to the nearby area. However, no one knew who had killed him. On the other hand, a day later, many more experts from the Duan family arrived. These people were no longer of the younger generation. They were all old monsters who had cultivated for tens of thousands of years. The weakest of them was a mid-stage martial ancestor, and a large number of them were late-stage martial ancestors. Such a force, even if placed in the final world, was not an ordinary force. Duan-yi is dead? Who did it? Chapter 3440. All the experts of the 9 prefectures had gathered. We don't know yet because there are too many experts gathered around the sacred mountain. Someone immediately replied. He used the Eye of Heaven and Earth recursion to check, but he couldn't find anything. The 9th God's Eye's ability to distort space had caused the space in the area to be distorted. Young Master Duan, the sacred mountain is still in charge. Yes. The man nodded and set up camp on the spot again. However, it could be seen that his forehead was filled with veins. After the experts of the Duan family arrived, the east of the sacred mountain became quiet. However, the new heavenly court was attacked because the experts of the new heavenly court had not arrived. The disciple of martial god Wen Tian, Ningbo Tao, was still on his way. The people of the new heavenly court were all killed and robbed of everything they had. This shocked the area around the sacred mountain. Of course, the culprit was also found out. It was the son of the demon from the god-slaying alliance. When the news spread, the experts of the Divine Escort Mansion, Flying Dragon Organization, and Fu Hang Manor were shocked. Especially those who didn't have experts in charge. They were in a panic. However, not long after, the experts of Fu Hang Manor were all killed. This caused the Divine Escort Mansion, Flying Dragon Organization, and other major forces to join hands. However, after a period of time, the experts in charge of these major forces finally arrived. Every one of them was a mid-stage martial ancestor and had a fourth-grade ultimate desolate body. A fourth-grade ultimate desolate body was no small matter. It was much harder to raise one's desolate body by 1 grade than to raise one's cultivation by 1 level. This was because many late-stage martial ancestor experts only had a 3rd grade or 2nd grade ultimate desolate body. It was even difficult for them to raise it in their lifetime. Son of the demon, you deserve to die. When the experts of the major forces arrived, they were furious. They almost wanted to search the sacred mountain and find the son of the demon, then kill him and whip his corpse to vent their anger. I heard that the son of the demon is only at the sage realm, but he's so arrogant. Does he think that we don't exist? However, the 9 prefectures, 10 Vicious, Immortal Temple, Creation Alliance, Tomb Guardian Tribe, Great Demon Sect, and Land of Eternal Rest are all here. So, we can't act rashly. Moreover, I've heard that a new member of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils has surfaced because of the Divine Bone. It's the Tin Ghost Clan. What is the Tin Ghost Clan? Why haven't I heard of it before? The various forces were all paying attention to the situation of the battle. They were prepared to risk their lives to obtain the godly bone. However, as more and more experts arrived, they also began to feel the pressure. The Tin Ghost Clan is the #1 puppet clan in JoJo. It is said that the clan leader of this clan was a puppet created by God. After the fall of God, this puppet hid in the myriad of worlds and created the Tin Ghost Clan. The reason why they came here is because God's bones are the best puppet material. Bastard! The treasure hasn't even been unearthed yet, and the world is already in chaos. The Flying Dragon Organization and the others were all furious, and in the following days, the Wangu clan also came. The area around the Divine Mountain seemed quiet, but in reality, countless powerhouses had already gathered. Those below the martial ancestor realm were not qualified to step into this world. Of course, if there was one, it would be Lin Ling. Lin Ling was the only exception. Moreover, his battle prowess was so ferocious that no one dared to underestimate him. The world in the starry sky seems peaceful, but there will be a storm at any time. At the bottom of an ancient mountain, a large number of criminals gathered. The 9th gods, I looked at the sky with excitement. During this period, he and Lin Ling had slaughtered the new heavenly court and Fuhang Manor, and they had greatly vented their anger. However, as more experts arrived, they knew that the calm surface of the water was about to be disturbed. Once the godly bone appears, the JoJo will be in chaos. Lin Ling also wished for the world to be in chaos. After all, he had come here for 2 reasons. First, to find the Mahakasayapa incantation. Second, to disrupt his enemies and obtain the treasure. Although Lin Ling was also very interested in the godly bone, he did not have the confidence to snatch it from the hands of so many experts. However, since he couldn't snatch it, he hoped that it would be taken by a powerful force he knew. We have killed many people from the Duan clan, the New Heavenly Court, and Fuhang Manor. They should be the ones who want to kill us the most. Have you found out who is the expert overseeing them? Subsequently, Lin Ling asked again. Although other forces had grudges with Lin Ling, such as the Divine Escort Estate, the treasure was about to be unearthed, so the Divine Escort Estate had no time to deal with him. However, the Duan clan and the New Heavenly Court were different. They wanted to kill Lin Ling at any time. Young Master, Ning Haitao has come from the New Heavenly Court. He is the disciple of martial god Wen Tian. He is a level 4 martial ancestor and has a level 4 ultimate desolate body. He is one of the 4 heavenly ears in the universe, the Thunder Heavenly Ear. I heard that he can hear everyone's thoughts. One of the convicts said flatteringly, if Chu Yun and the others were here, they would definitely be shocked. Unknowingly, Lin Ling seemed to have become the leader of the criminals. The Academy's freshman trial was for them to survive for a year, avoid the criminals, and become the leader of the criminals. If this was spread back to the Academy, all the teachers would be frightened. 4 heavenly ears in the universe? It is on the same level as my space-time god eye, but it can't compare to senior 9th. Interesting. Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh. If his space-time god eye reached the limit, it would also be a level 4 ultimate desolate body. The New Heavenly Court has Duan Wuhan. He is a level 4 divine paladin. So far, no one has seen his ultimate desolate body. The criminal added, so powerful. The 9th god I couldn't help but be curious. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and nodded. It's not that no one has seen his ultimate desolate body, but that those who have seen it are all dead. It seems that this guy is not to be trifled with. However, many of the 9 provinces' 10 evils are also here. The criminal said again and told him all the information he had gathered. Lin Ling's expression kept changing. The immortal temple is also here. I wonder if Senior Sister Yu is here. He couldn't help but feel a little excited. Last time at the Heavenly King Mountain in Yen Province, and Yuer had risked her life to block the 5th demon elder for him. Lin Ling had always remembered this. The Creation Alliance is also here. Senior Lu Chun, the 9-lantern fish, I haven't seen him for a long time. Lin Ling smiled again as he thought of an acquaintance. It could be said that the Creation Alliance was Lin Ling's comrade-in-arms. At least this force was not weak. Moreover, a new member of the 10 evils of the 9 provinces has surfaced. It's the Tin Ghost clan. This clan is an expert in puppetry. 30,000 years ago, when I wasn't a fugitive, I once saw them. They were very powerful. Later, they changed their names and disappeared from the myriad worlds. The Tin Ghost race. Hearing this, Lin Ling frowned. Because one of the leaders of the God-Slayer Alliance, Majin Tianzi, was also a puppet master. Could it be that they were related? And the Tomb Guardian race. The criminal said again. Menglu of the Tomb Guardian race and Lin Ling were brothers. If the Tomb Guardian race knew that Lin Ling was here, they would definitely help Lin Ling. Interesting, it's getting more and more interesting. I've said that learning martial arts in the final world schools is boring. That's not the world of martial arts. This is the real world of martial arts. Chapter 3441. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios' The Divine Treasure had been unearthed. Rumble. While they were waiting, the divine mountain in the distance rumbled as if it was breathing. However, the sound was so loud that it spread throughout the entire starry sky forest. Everyone's conversation was immediately interrupted. Is this divine mountain a toad? Lin Ling looked over. During this period, the divine mountain would rumble every day. However, the frequency of the rumbling had increased over the past few days. Looks like the divine bone is about to be unearthed. Lin Ling licked his lips, anticipating the arrival of the storm. Kunlun. At this moment, a timid voice came from Lin Ling's body. Then, a small vine rose up like a child's arm. Haha, you've finally woken up. Lin Ling was delighted because this was little Kunlun's voice. When little Kunlun sensed Lin Ling's laughter, its vine rose even faster. It was also extremely happy. Little Kunlun was equivalent to Lin Ling's armor. Every time he was close to death, it would protect Lin Ling. It was like a brother to Lin Ling. However, little Kunlun's vine suddenly faced the divine mountain, as if it was very interested in it. This shocked Lin Ling. Then he recalled little Kunlun's origin. He had encountered it when the Azure Province God Emperor changed positions. It could be considered one of the few things that Lin Ling could see through. Little Kunlun, have you discovered something? Lin Ling asked hurriedly. However, little Kunlun's vine swayed. It seemed to be just a feeling, but it was not strong. Lin Ling sighed softly and did not ask any more questions. In the following days, Lin Ling and the 9th gods waited for the treasure to be unearthed. On this day, the earth shook. The distant divine mountain rumbled endlessly, and rumbling sounds filled the sky. The rumbling was even more frequent than usual. The experts near the divine mountain were all delighted. Had the treasure been unearthed? It's finally here. To the east of the divine mountain, a man rode a golden horse and smiled as he looked into the distance. Young Master Duan, we've finally waited. The experts of the Duan clan were also extremely excited. Duan Wuhan, I'm afraid that the divine bone will be accompanied by many treasures, so I don't want the divine bone. However, I want to choose one of the treasures. If you agree, I'll help you. Not far away, a large group of experts had gathered, and the leader was the Flame Emperor. Deal. Duan Wuhan nodded immediately. If it were before, he could rely on the experts of the Duan family to monopolize the treasures, but there were too many powerhouses gathered in the Sacred Mountain area, so he also needed some helpers. This was because he also knew that the Great Devil Sect, Land of Eternal Rest, Immortal Temple, and other experts were all eyeing him covetously. Gulyalu. At this moment, the divine mountain seemed to have come to life. Billowing white smoke spread out from the top of the mountain, enveloping the sky and blocking the starry sky. It's unearthed, strike first, and gain the upper hand. Around the ancient sacred mountain, many experts flew up and looked at the sacred mountain with burning eyes. When they saw the white smoke, many people became excited. The divine bone had reached the divine transformation realm in one step. Attack! Without any hesitation, a large number of experts pounced towards the divine mountain, and the fastest among them was actually the Flying Dragon organization. Bastard! On the Duan family's side, many people cursed and then looked at Duan Wuhan. Duan Wuhan frowned and then waved his hand. Duan family, attack! Our Yen province will be the vanguard. The Flame Emperor said boldly as he led the experts of the Yen province to the summit of the sacred mountain. He seemed brave, but in truth, he also wanted to find a chance to obtain the divine bone. Moreover, even if he didn't succeed, as long as he obtained a treasure, this trip would not have been in vain. These pieces of trash actually don't follow the rules and strike first and gain the upper hand. On the other side, the experts of the Great Devil Sect, Land of Eternal Rest, and Immortal Temple all paled. Without any hesitation, they called for a large number of experts to charge at the sacred mountain. From a distance, the scene was extremely spectacular. There were giants, paladins, warriors of ice and fire, and other experts of heaven and earth surrounding the sacred mountain. The sacred mountain was very large, and at its peak, clouds and mist drifted about. It was as if a god was standing there, and all the living beings around wanted to get close to that god and become a god. Lin Ling, what should we do? At this moment, the ninth god, I was nervously looking at Lin Ling from a certain part of the sacred mountain. Lin Ling frowned. Did their faction have to move out? There was no question that the closer they were to the summit, the greater their chances of obtaining treasures. This was also why so many experts were charging at the sacred mountain. But for some reason, Lin Ling felt that things were not so simple. Of course, this was only his guess, and he wasn't too sure. Lin Ling, if you don't move out, we'll have come for nothing. The ninth god, I called out once more. Lin Ling was finally about to move out, but at this moment, little Kunlun began to squeak, causing Lin Ling to pale. You can't! He immediately shouted, causing the criminals who were about to charge out to stop in their tracks. Although I don't know why we can't step onto the sacred mountain, little Kunlun is telling me that this is not the time to go up, Lin Ling hurriedly said. The ninth god, I frowned, but in the end he believed Lin Ling's words. At this moment, more and more experts were charging up the sacred mountain. They moved with incredible speed, and as they charged, they began to fight with each other, causing quite a few people to fall. Rumble! At the summit of the sacred mountain, even more clouds began to gather, enveloping the earth and giving off an extremely oppressive feeling. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled within the roiling clouds. Suddenly, the roiling clouds began to change, and war cries could be heard. The Great War of Gods and Demons. What appeared within the clouds was the Great War of Gods and Demons of the Age of Gods. There were ancient demons whose ends stretched as far as the eye could see, gods whose bodies shone with golden light, and a higher god with 12 wings. They ruled over a part of the world and were the most ancient legends of the 9 provinces. And now, the two sides were engaged in a great battle that caused the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend. Everything seemed to be real. The martial ancestors who were charging towards the sacred mountain were all stunned. Their bodies began to tremble. It was as if they were witnessing the great war of gods and demons with their own eyes. And they were nothing more than insignificant ants. How frightening! Lin Ling watched from afar, his heart turning grave. The strength of these experts could easily shatter the 9 provinces, even shatter the void of the universe. This was the pinnacle of strength in the world. Lin Ling, look at them. The 9th god, I pointed at the experts on the sacred mountain. The experts who had rushed up the divine mountain were all motionless, as if time had frozen on the divine mountain. And those experts also started to slowly wither. The wrinkles on their faces became more and more. Their bones became more and more brittle, and the power of the world essence also seemed to dissipate. Crack! A few moments later, an expert collapsed, gradually turning into ashes like a piece of paper being burned by fire. Following that, another expert collapsed. Finally, all the experts collapsed, their bodies withered and gradually shattered. A gust of wind blew past, and countless fireworks danced on the sacred mountain. These were the ashes of the experts from before. Chapter 3442. King Blood Skull. Everyone's pupils trembled fiercely, and a thick chill rose in their hearts. How strange. No one dared to move. They were dumbstruck. Their throats rolled, and even swallowing their saliva seemed to be much more difficult. They are all dead. The ninth god, I said, his face pale. The martial ancestor realm. Previously, those who had charged up the sacred mountain were all martial ancestors. There were even late-stage and peak martial ancestors. However, in the blink of an eye, he was reduced to ashes. This was too frightening. Fortunately, they didn't act rashly. Otherwise, they would have been completely wiped out. Even Lin Ling's face turned solemn as he looked at little Kunlun. If it wasn't for little Kunlun's reminder, he would have rushed up the sacred mountain as well. Fortunately, he believed in little Kunlun. Then, he looked at the various factions near the sacred mountain, and a smile appeared on his face. This was because many people from the various forces had died. And that was indeed the case. The faces of those top experts were dark, and their bodies were trembling with anger. Those were martial ancestor-level experts. The birth of a martial progenitor was extremely rare, thus the amount of resources required was uncountable. Now that one of them had died, the factions they belonged to were greatly weakened. At this moment, the godly mountain was still as silent as before. Rolling clouds and mist were still flowing, but no one dared to approach it. They could only wait. These guys aren't impulsive anymore. Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh when he saw the solemn expressions on the experts' faces. Previously, these powerhouses were restless, deeply afraid that if they were a step too slow, something would be snatched away by others. But now, none of them dared to move. It was truly hilarious. Time passed quietly, and the clouds above the divine mountain began to disperse. Then the top of the mountain cracked open, and huge rocks tumbled. Then a huge skeletal arm stretched out. This arm seemed to have come from another world, exuding a threatening aura. Most importantly, the skeletal arm was red. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Some of the experts inspected the skeleton with their heavenly eyes and discovered that it was most likely a half-martial god realm presence, which was stronger than a peak martial progenitor realm cultivator. What is this? Could that be the divine bone? The various experts muttered to themselves, not daring to act rashly. Rumble. The peak of the divine mountain was like a volcanic crater. More and more cracks appeared. Another blood-red skeleton arm reached out and dug a hole. Then it finally crawled out. It was actually a 100-meter-tall crimson skeletal giant. Under its feet, skeletons crawled out one after another. Some were white, and some were green. They were like ants coming out of their holes, making one's scalp tingle. However, after all the skeletons had crawled out, water began to flow out from the top of the mountain and gradually accumulated into a lake. Gulyalu. The lake continued to bubble, as if something was about to surface. Everyone became nervous as they stared fixedly at the lake. Finally, an ancient boat appeared on the surface of the lake. Several boxes were placed on the boat. They looked simple and unadorned, but they caused everyone to hold their breaths. Although no one knew what was inside the chest, a chest unearthed from the sacred mountain must contain a great treasure. Perhaps the god's bone was among them as well. For a moment, everyone's eyes turned red. There were many martial progenitor realm experts here, but due to their limited talents, they had been stuck at the same cultivation level for over 10,000 years. It would be difficult for them to have a breakthrough in their lifetime. However, if they obtained the god's bone, they would have the talent of a god. It was even possible for them to step into a new realm. It's mine. In the Flying Dragon organization, an old man transformed into a black mist and quickly charged towards the sacred mountain. He was a 17-kill expert, a peak martial progenitor realm expert. Damn, that's Elder You. How cunning. Don't let him get the treasure. Look, the clouds on the sacred mountain have dispersed. That means it's fine for us to ascend the sacred mountain. The various forces were starting to get restless. Haha. When the old man sensed everyone's angry roars, he immediately smiled smugly. The one who struck first had the advantage. As long as he obtained those treasure chests, he would have a way to leave the battlefield. Therefore, he was not afraid. Following that, he looked at the gigantic crimson skeleton and licked his lips. King Blood Skeleton? It seems to be a demigod existence. However, I'm an assassin, and I'm good at delivering a fatal blow. Even a demigod can be killed. A dagger appeared in his hand as he condensed all his strength, causing the dagger to instantly disappear. He had a 4th-grade ultimate desolate body, and his progenitor's power had reached 70%. A fatal blow was naturally not to be underestimated. The dagger was completely formless and colorless. It had even disappeared from this world. With such a killer move, even a god would find it difficult to guard against it. At the same time, a dagger appeared above the crimson skeleton's head. With a terrifying killing intent, it slashed down. Although it did not seem powerful, everyone knew that such a killer move was the most terrifying. Bastard! Many people cursed. With a slash of the dagger, the crimson skeleton's head immediately split open, as though it could not withstand a single blow. Haha! The 17-kill assassin laughed smugly as he hurriedly shot towards the ancient lake. This caused everyone's eyes to turn red with envy. Ningbo Tao from the new heavenly court and Duan Wuhan from the Duan family roared angrily. Elder Yu, how dare you? However, just as the old man was about to reach the ancient lake, an arm suddenly appeared and grabbed the old man. The old man was alarmed as he realized that it was the King Blood Skeleton's attack. The King Blood Skeleton is not dead? At this moment, the huge King Blood Skeleton stared at the old man in its hand. Its empty eye sockets revealed only a trace of coldness. Its head was full of cracks from being injured by the dagger, but it did not seem to feel anything at all. Bang! The skeleton clenched its hand, and blood flowed out of its palm. After a miserable cry, the 17-kill assassin was deader than dead. Moreover, the blood that was left on the sacred mountain was actually absorbed by the sacred mountain. Terrifying. The entire area around the sacred mountain fell into a deathly silence. This was because a peak martial progenitor had died just like that. One must know that such a level of cultivation was not to be trifled with in the final world. For a moment, the experts of the various factions did not dare to move. In the distance, Lin Ling and the ninth god Eye laughed. What a majestic King Blood Skeleton. Kill it, the more you kill, the better. Obviously, Lin Ling and the others were extremely happy to see their enemy having a hard time snatching the treasure. What should we do? At this moment, an old woman from the Fu Hang Manor said. She was 13 Blessings, one of the 13 strongest people in the Fu Hang Manor. What can we do? The treasure is right in front of us. If you want it, go get it. Someone from the Divine Escort Mansion sneered. They were all very cunning. No one wanted to be the first to eat the crab. Everyone, how about this? Let's join forces and kill the King Blood Skeleton first. Then, we'll fight for the treasure with our strength. At this moment, a majestic voice floated out. It was Duan Wuhan. Many people immediately looked at him. They were somewhat in awe of this person. Haha, Duan Wuhan, don't tell me you're using us as tools. Chapter 34-43. Fighting the Blood Skull King. However, even though he was seen through, Duan Wuhan was not angry. He said lightly, this Blood Skull King is obviously a monster guarding the treasure. In the current situation, what else can we do except join forces? You know, after the treasure is unearthed, if we don't seize it, it will fly away and disappear in the 9 regions and the myriad worlds. At that time, who can find it? As soon as these words came out, everyone's face became serious. This was indeed the case. Not to mention these divine treasures, even the fleece flower with spiritual energy would disappear if it wasn't tied up with a red rope. I can guarantee that as long as we join forces, the Duan family will also send a large number of experts. Is that okay? Duan Wuhan said again. Hearing this, everyone was finally moved. They were afraid that they would be used by the Duan family, but the Duan family would also send experts. In this way, if they died, many people from the Duan family would also die. Okay, I, Ningbo Tao, agree. Kill the Blood Skull King first, and then compete for the treasure. The Flying Dragon Organization also agrees. The Wangu family also agrees. Around the sacred mountain, everyone had the same goal. In the distance, Lin Ling and the others frowned. Because these big forces had joined forces, it would be difficult for Lin Ling and the others to cause trouble. The Great Devil Sect will join. The Immortal Temple will also join. And the Land of Eternal Rest. Moreover, 3 of the 9 regions' 10 evils had joined. Although they were not on good terms with the forces of the 9 regions, they also knew that if they did not join forces, they would have no hope of getting the treasure. Haha, then let's unite as one. Seeing that all the experts had agreed, Duan Wuhan suddenly smiled heroically. Flame Emperor, you will be the vanguard. In order to prove that he was not selfish, he called on the Duan family and the people of the Yen state to take the lead. Okay, Flame Emperor nodded immediately and rushed toward the sacred mountain with a large number of experts. New Heavenly Court, move out. Fuxing Manor, move out. When the other forces saw this, they immediately sent out their experts. Ka. Atop the sacred mountain, the Blood Skull King stood motionless like a god. Its empty eye sockets were looking down at the ground. It seemed to know that these experts were about to attack it. Suddenly, a mysterious melody was emitted from its body. It was like an invisible ripple that spread to the vicinity of the sacred mountain. Ka. The skeletons on the sacred mountain immediately rushed down in an attempt to block the invading enemies. Rumble. Moreover, there were endless skeletons crawling out from the ground of the divine mountain. It made one's scalp go numb. The Blood Skull King was like a deity that could summon the gods and summon them. Everyone be careful. Many people had seen how powerful those skeletons were, so their expressions were extremely solemn. Bang, bang, bang. Boom. Boom. The entire starry sky forest shook violently, and the two powerful forces clashed madly. Both sides were indomitable existences. When the two sides collided, the aura was terrifying. It was simply the peak of the 9 provinces. Far away in the outskirts of the starry sky forest, the students of the academies had also noticed the scene in the distance. Their faces were all pale with fright, and they didn't dare to take a step closer. No! Die! A fierce battle broke out, and many powerful cultivators were killed by the skeletons. There were white and green skeletons. The green skeletons were the most difficult to deal with. They were fast and had spiritual intelligence. Although the white skeletons were slow, their bones were hard, and they were not afraid of death. The most important thing was that there were too many of them. Blood had almost dyed the foot of the sacred mountain red. Of course, many of the skeletons had also been destroyed, and the sacred mountain was littered with skeleton fragments. As for Duan Wuhan and the rest, their expressions were solemn. For the treasure, their forces had paid a great price. It could be said that 2/3 of the foot of the mountain had been destroyed. If they couldn't get the treasure, they would suffer a great loss today. Kill! Duan Wuhan shouted coldly. Riding on his golden horse, he finally moved out. Seeing this, Ningbo Tao and the other powerful cultivators also moved out. Their strength was stronger, and they managed to open a bloody path in the army of skeletons. Ka. However, at this moment, the Blood Skull King on the mountaintop also moved. A huge blood-bone saber appeared in its hand. It held the saber and slashed at the enemies. Flaming Emperor, help me. Duan Wuhan was the fastest. When he saw the Blood Skull King attacking, he roared. The Flaming Emperor immediately arrived. The two of them joined forces to block the saber. Rumble. The saber was about to split open the void. It was extremely terrifying. Puff! Duan Wuhan and the rest immediately spat out blood, but their eyes turned red. The Blood Skull King was really terrifying. I'll help you. At this moment, Ningbo Tao and the other powerful cultivators also arrived. They joined forces to fight against the Blood Skull King. They all had powerful talents and were at the peak of the martial ancestor realm. When they joined forces, they actually blocked the attack of a demigod. Good, that's it. Duan Wuhan immediately smiled excitedly and called on all the powerful cultivators to kill the Blood Skull King. Rumble. Their means were extremely terrifying. When they joined forces, not only were the skeletons on the sacred mountain killed, but they also killed their own people. However, they didn't care about that now. All they cared about was the treasure. However, the Blood Skull King was really powerful. It had blocked so many powerful cultivators and was still alive. On the contrary, many cracks had appeared on its huge skeleton, and the cracks continued to spread. Damn, even the top 10 martial gods of the 9 provinces wouldn't dare to fight against us when we join forces. This skeleton's bones are so hard. Realizing this, many people felt a chill in their hearts. If they didn't join forces, they could only run away in a one-on-one fight against such an ancient god. The Blood Skull King is about to collapse. Everyone work harder. At this time, Duan Wuhan spoke again. He was also seriously injured, and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. Moreover, even though the top cultivators had joined forces, 1 or 2 of them had died. Fortunately, all the skeletons on the sacred mountain had been destroyed, and only the Blood Skull King was left. In this way, everyone could besiege the Blood Skull King. Looking from afar, the scene was extremely spectacular. The huge Blood Skull King was fighting against the powerful cultivators of the world without fear of death. Lin Ling and the Ninth Gods I were watching the battle from afar. Their expressions were extremely grave. In terms of time, it was only a matter of time before the Blood Skull King fell. And once the Blood Skull King fell, all the treasures would belong to Duan Wuhan and the others. Lin Ling, think of something. The Ninth Gods I couldn't help but become anxious. His goal was to cause trouble, but he didn't know how to do it now. Lin Ling, on the other hand, remained silent as he activated his 10,000 mammoths' demonic eyes and stared at the Blood Skull King. Boom! At this time, the right arm of the Blood Skull King exploded, and bones flew everywhere, killing a large number of people. However, Duan Wuhan and the others were stunned, and then they all laughed. The Blood Skull King was injured. Kill! They raised their morale and attacked with all their might. Boom! With another explosion, the left arm of the Blood Skull King exploded. Boom! Chapter 34-44. Undying Skeleton. The Blood Skull King was only left with its head and body. However, it still didn't fear death. It was as if it was its mission to protect the treasure. Haha, arrogant. Let's see how arrogant you can be. Ningbo Tao was also covered in blood, but he couldn't hold back his excitement and laughed loudly. All the experts were breathing heavily, but when they thought of the treasure that was about to be in their hands, they also laughed happily. You only have a head and a body left. What can you do? Now I'll give you a chance. Submit to me. Duan Wuhan walked forward step by step and came to the Blood Skull King's side with his hands behind his back. The Blood Skull King was a demigod existence. If it could submit to Duan Wuhan would have a powerful left and right arm. Crack! However, the Blood Skull King didn't speak. Instead, its skeleton shattered. One of the fragments shot toward Duan Wuhan, but Duan Wuhan dodged it. His cheek was also scratched. This might be the Blood Skull King's reply. Duan Wuhan wiped the blood off his face and tasted it. He couldn't help but laugh coldly. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. As soon as he finished speaking, he lifted his right leg high up in the air, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. In the sky, an ancient mammoth appeared and lifted its leg high up in the air before stomping down heavily on the Blood Skeleton King. At this moment, an incomparably ferocious wave rolled out, and those who were weak were directly swept off the sacred mountain. Is this Duan Wuhan's talent? Although he was injured before, he didn't use his talent. This is the first time. Can you tell what his talent is? All the experts were shocked. Although Duan Wuhan's realm was not high, his talent was strong and fierce. It was said that he had the bloodline of a god. It was the bloodline of one of the 4 great gods. Boom! This kick was indeed terrifying, and it caused the godly mountain to tremble. The Blood Skeleton King was unable to block it at all. Cracks appeared on the bones of the Blood Skeleton King, and soon after, it exploded. Countless bone fragments scattered on the ground. Dead. The demigod Blood Skull King was dead. Everyone laughed, and they laughed with extreme joy. This was because even though the Blood Skull King was a demigod, it was actually a martial god. This was because its bones were too hard, and its defense was too strong. Everyone's laughter resounded throughout the divine mountain, shaking the heavens and earth. Far away, Lin Ling's group was frowning, and the 9th god I let out a long sigh. It seemed that he couldn't stop those fellows from seizing the treasure. No, that's not the Blood Skeleton King. It's the Undying Skeleton. Lin Ling's words left the 9th god I dumbfounded, not understanding what Lin Ling meant. However, Lin Ling had no time to explain. He hurriedly led the 9th god I and the criminals toward the divine mountain. At this moment, everyone on the divine mountain was still laughing. They could not help but feel excited. Some of the more impatient experts even took out wine to drink, as if they were preparing a celebratory feast. Duan Wuhan, with his hands behind his back, glanced at the people of the Duan clan. He found that most of them were dead, but he did not feel any heartache. Because as long as he brought the treasure back to the Duan clan, not only would the Duan clan not blame him, they would even reward him greatly. Exchanging several hundred martial ancestors for a treasure, the Duan clan had clearly profited. Thinking of this, Duan Wuhan's gaze fell on the surroundings. Suddenly he frowned. This was because the skeleton fragments around them were actually tumbling. If one didn't look carefully, they would think that it was the wind that was blowing. However, Duan Wuhan knew that it was not the wind that was blowing. Instead, the skeleton fragments were being summoned and were gathering at this moment. Subconsciously, Duan Wuhan looked in the direction of the bone fragments, and then his face changed. He shouted, "Not good, the Blood Skull King is not dead." As soon as his voice fell, everyone stopped laughing and frowned. The Blood Skull King was not dead? Previously, they had sacrificed so many people to blow up the Blood Skull King. If the Blood Skull King was not dead, would they have to fight the previous battle again? At the thought of this, they shuddered all over. If such a battle were to occur again, they would most likely be completely annihilated. Look, there is a blood-colored bone fragment over there. Suddenly, someone pointed to the front and said, on the ground in front of them, a palm-sized bone fragment of the blood skull was lying on the ground, and the bone fragments around it were rolling toward it. Destroy the blood skull fragment. Everyone immediately reacted and let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they found the blood skull fragment and prevented the Blood Skull King from resurrecting. An old man was closest to the blood skull fragment, so he took the lead and pounced on it, slamming his palm toward the ground. Yes, ancient Grand Wizard. Everyone immediately laughed as if they had solved a mortal enemy. However, before the old man could get close to the blood skull fragment, a sword slashed from afar and cut off the old man's arm, spilling blood all over the ground. Then, a figure stood in front of the blood skull fragment and looked at everyone with a smile. This time, everyone was stunned. What did this guy mean? You cut off my arm. As for the old man whose arm was cut off, he was roaring angrily. Hee, you are wrong. I should have cut off your head. However, the newcomer was extremely arrogant. With a wave of his sword, he cut off the old man's head. The old man died unjustly. If he was in his peak condition, he would definitely be able to block that sword. However, he was already exhausted after the battle with the Blood Skull King, so he was easily killed by the newcomer. You know what you are doing. Seeing this, everyone was furious. This person seemed to want to harm me, so I killed him. It's that simple. However, the newcomer was still smiling, as if what had just happened had nothing to do with him. That carefree smile had undoubtedly infuriated everyone. I don't know who you are, but you better get out of my way now, or don't blame me for being impolite. A powerhouse of the new heavenly court said coldly. Oh, what impoliteness. You'd better tell me clearly. Unfortunately, the person who had come was still unhurried, and his tone was even lazy. Anger. The powerhouse was stunned and trembled with anger. Does this guy know what he is doing? Don't be fooled, everyone. He is deliberately stalling for time. At this time, Ningbo Tao seemed to have come to his senses and said coldly, stalling for time. Everyone looked behind the newcomer, and only then did they realize that the blood-red skull fragment was getting bigger and bigger. Damn it! This guy pretended to be stupid and crazy, so he did it on purpose. Who are you? Why are you ruining our plans? Ningbo Tao looked at the mysterious man with hostility, and the others were also filled with killing intent. Only a fool would dare to offend people from all the major forces at the same time. Hee, I am an old acquaintance of yours. The mysterious man shrugged his shoulders and unhurriedly took off the brim of his hat, revealing a delicate and pretty face. Seeing this face, many people came to their senses and said in a daze, "You are the son of the devil?" At this time, they finally understood why the newcomer had stopped them. Chapter 34:45. Stalling for time. The son of the devil was someone who only wished for the world to be in chaos. He was not afraid of heaven or earth. He was an old enemy of all the major forces, so how could he let them off easily? Now they had finally killed the blood skeleton, but the son of the devil came to make trouble, trying to resurrect the blood skeleton. At this moment, if looks could kill, Lin Ling would have been slashed 1,000 times by the gazes of the experts. However, Lin Ling did not seem to care about their killing intent at all. Instead, he slowly took off his head, revealing his blue and white robe. Why are you so fierce? We are old rivals. Can't we talk nicely when we meet? Sigh. His tone was as if he was talking to a friend. But in fact, he was just stalling for time. And this kind of casual tone undoubtedly made the faces of the experts crooked. They were all life and death enemies, so how could they talk nicely? Son of the devil, I know your purpose, but you seem to think too highly of yourself. Do you think you can mess up our plan by yourself? Sigh. At this time, Duan Wuhan, who had been silent, also spoke. This was the first time he saw Lin Ling, but he had to say that Lin Ling was quite bold. In front of such strong experts, he actually dared to show his face. He also slowly looked at the blood skeleton fragments. He knew that it would take some time for the blood skeleton to be resurrected, so he was not in a hurry. On the contrary, he wanted to see what Lin Ling could say. However, no matter what Lin Ling said, he would die here today. I think it shouldn't be difficult to stop you. Sigh. Lin Ling also spoke, still as casual as before. Do you think stalling for time is useful? Even if I give you an incense stick's worth of time, you can't change anything. Duan Wuhan seemed to have seen through Lin Ling and smiled faintly. Hearing this, everyone looked at the blood-red skull fragments and couldn't help but smile. Every single one of them was an ambitious and ruthless character, capable of dominating a region of the 9 prefectures. Previously, they had lost their minds because they were afraid of the Blood Skull King. But now, they realized that the Blood Skull King needed a certain amount of time to revive. During this period of time, they were confident that they could kill the son of the devil and destroy the blood skull fragments. Therefore, they were not in a hurry. Son of Devil, Lin Ling. It was an old man wearing a monk's robe. There was a Buddhist light on his body, but if one looked closely, there was a devil within the Buddha. This was an elder from the Immortal Temple. Lin Ling looked at him and asked calmly, "Has your saint arrived?" Son of the devil, the saintess didn't come. Moreover, the Immortal Temple didn't expect you to know the saintess. The saintess won't be with you. Right now, she is transforming. As long as she succeeds, she will become the great Buddha saintess of the Immortal Temple. She will also forget about you completely, the old man said calmly. Lin Ling was furious. And Yuera had lost her memories after becoming the saintess of the Immortal Temple. Otherwise, Yuera would definitely come back. He had always wanted to bring Yuera back, but because he wasn't strong enough, he could only wait. Lin Ling, don't be impulsive. Yuera is in the Immortal Temple. Although she can't come back for the time being, she is constantly becoming stronger. This is also her opportunity. At this time, a faintly discernible voice entered Lin Ling's ears, causing Lin Ling to be stunned for a moment. Then he nodded. Indeed, Yuera would be safer if she stayed in the Immortal Temple. Moreover, she could become stronger. When the Immortal Temple elder saw that Lin Ling had suddenly calmed down, he was immediately displeased. The reason he had said all this before was to make Lin Ling lose his mind. However, he didn't expect Lin Ling to suppress it so well. In the beginning, the Immortal Temple didn't put the name of the son of devil in their eyes. However, in the Eternal Forbidden Forest, Lin Ling was stabbed by Yuera, but he was still alive. Then, he killed the god, killed the devil, and then went to the Great Battle of the Yen Province and the Great Battle of the Qing Province. The insignificant existence in the past had finally become a famous figure in the 9 regions. All of these made him not dare to underestimate Lin Ling. If he maintained this kind of progress, Lin Ling would become a big problem. In the eyes of the Immortal Temple elder, a thick killing intent flowed out. Of course, it wasn't only him. The experts of the Great Devil Sect were the same. The 5th demon elder had died in Lin Ling's hands and was still alive. This had already caused the Great Devil Sect to suffer great shame. The most important thing was that every time they wanted to wash away the shame, the son of devil would become stronger, causing them to fail again and again. This kid is really powerful. If he is used to plant goo, it will definitely be a peerless goo. The land of eternal rest was also full of hostility towards Lin Ling. As for the Flying Dragon Organization and the Fuxing Manor, there was no need to say much, including the Duan family. For a time, the Divine Mountain was a little quiet, and the oppressive atmosphere filled the air. Apart from King Bloodskull, Lin Ling was also the target of everyone's attention. Now, what else do you want to say? Duan Wuhan said indifferently with his hands behind his back. He didn't think that Lin Ling could survive. It was absolutely certain that he would die. He didn't expect that when he seized the god's bone, there would be an unexpected harvest. He could kill the son of devil. If so, Martial God Wentian would owe him a big favor. Don't you feel ashamed that so many of you want to kill me? Moreover, in terms of seniority, you should be more famous in the final world, so it can be considered as the big bullying the small. Don't you have any shame? At this time, Lin Ling said lazily. It seemed to be sarcastic, but he didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. In this case, if it came from someone else's mouth, we would give him a chance. But you, the son of devil, can't do that. You once killed a deity. Duan Wuhan immediately smiled. It seemed that he had put Lin Ling on a high pedestal, but in fact, he had also killed the scruples of the powerhouses. It had to be said that he was very cunning, because if it were someone who valued face here, they would definitely not join forces to kill Lin Ling. Instead, they would fight him one-on-one. This was Lin Ling's trap. Thank you. After hearing what you said, I also feel that I am a big shot. Lin Ling immediately returned a smile, but his evaluation of Duan Wuhan had also increased by 1 point. This person was very powerful. On the surface, it seemed that he could easily kill him, but he still chose to use unscrupulous means. Such people were the most difficult to deal with. Then, time is up. Lin Ling, I know you want to resurrect the Blood Skull King, but you seem to have thought too highly of yourself. Duan Wuhan looked at the Blood Skull King again and smiled. Unfortunately, even if I give you time, you can't make any big waves. You really disappoint me. He said it nicely, allowing Lin Ling to stall for time. It seemed that he was extremely generous. In fact, he had already calculated the time. Hee, I don't believe you can stop us by yourself. Son of Devil, Lin Ling, I heard that you are the spokesperson of miracles. Today, you can create a miracle for us to see. To die here, to die by our hands, you should be satisfied. The powerhouses of all forces finally revealed their fangs. Chapter 3446. Who said I'm alone? With their combined strength, Lin Ling couldn't possibly stop them. Even if they fought one-on-one, Lin Ling would have a hard time winning. That's right, it's hard for me to stop you all by myself. But who said I'm alone? Sigh. Just as they were about to attack, Lin Ling smiled. Not only did he not prepare for battle, he even put away the tyrannical song. Everyone was stunned. Ningbo Tao frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" Simple. Simple. Son of Demon Lin Ling, there's still us. Sigh. Just as Ningbo Tao finished speaking, a large number of experts appeared in the sky. They were all criminals. They smashed into the ground like meteors and appeared beside Lin Ling. Although these criminals weren't the strongest, there were many of them. Now, it won't be easy for you to destroy the blood skull fragments. Sigh. While Ningbo Tao and the others were stunned, Lin Ling said indifferently. Duan Wuhan's brows furrowed tightly. Lin Ling had also prepared a trick. However, he immediately laughed and said, "It'll only take an extra incense stick of time. These people are just cannon fodder." Is that so? What if I'm included? At this moment, a large spatial fluctuation appeared. The sky above the divine mountain twisted, and an old man in a black robe looked down at the divine mountain. The ninth god Eye. Damn it, the ninth god Eye has been with Lin Ling all this time. I actually forgot about him. Damn it, we were tricked. We should have killed Lin Ling from the start. The experts were stunned at first, then their faces darkened with anger. The ninth god Eye was a demigod. It would take a lot of time to kill him, and if the Blood Skull King were to revive at that time, they would be in trouble. Previously, they could have easily killed Lin Ling, but because they wanted Lin Ling to regret, they let Lin Ling speak slowly. Now, they were the ones who regretted it. Among them, Duan Wuhan was the most regretful, and his eyes were cold. We don't have much time left. Let's kill them immediately. Ningbo Tao knew that there was no time to lose. If he delayed any longer, it would be even more disadvantageous for them. Although the ninth god Eye is a demigod, he can't compare to the Blood Skull King. We've even killed the Blood Skull King, so why should we fear him? The expert from the Flying Dragon organization also shouted angrily. My apologies, but the ninth god Eye isn't the only one joining in the fun. However, at this moment, Lin Ling's indifferent voice floated out again. Stop trying to be mysterious. Could it be that you, the son of the devil, can summon some experts? Duan Wuhan clearly didn't believe him. Sigh, why don't you believe me when I tell you the truth? Think about it. What great forces have come to the sacred mountain that hasn't appeared yet? Lin Ling shrugged and spread his hands. It seems that the Creation Alliance hasn't appeared yet. Could it be? All the powerhouses reacted, and their hearts trembled. Was the Creation Alliance going to help Lin Ling? However, the more they were worried about something, the more it appeared in the sky. The ferocious nine-lantern demonic fish cut through the clouds and arrived with a large number of experts. The person in the lead had a faint smile on his face. It was nine-lantern fish Lu Chen. Previously, it was also him who had warned Lin Ling about a new error in the Immortal Temple. They had already contacted each other a few days ago and had reached an agreement. The Creation Alliance. Everyone looked at nine-lantern fish Lu Chen, fuming with anger. At the beginning, they wouldn't have feared the Creation Alliance. After all, they had more experts on their side. However, They had already fought a great battle with the Blood Skull King and suffered countless casualties. Now that the Creation Alliance had come to cause trouble, it would definitely have a huge impact on them. Lin Ling, the son of the devil, it's you. Duan Wuhan was the angriest of them all, roaring at Lin Ling, don't be in such a hurry. The fun isn't over yet. However, Lin Ling was not afraid at all and still spoke slowly. For some unknown reason, everyone's heart skipped a beat when they heard his words. Lin Ling had really surprised them today. Moreover, when they saw Lin Ling's lazy appearance, they couldn't help but feel angry. When they looked at the sky again, ghostly aura billowed and numerous tombs of gods and demons appeared. Everyone didn't need to look to know what kind of force it was. It was the Tomb Guardian clan. The Tomb Guardian clan also gave you face? Duan Wuhan felt incredulous. The Tomb Guardian clan was one of the 9 states' 10 evils. Generally speaking, they didn't have any contact with outsiders. How could they give Lin Ling face? He had always thought that Lin Ling only knew the God-Slayer alliance in the 9 states. Now he realized that he was wrong. Ridiculously wrong. Perhaps I, Lin Ling, am more popular. I didn't ask them for help, and they decided to cooperate with me. Also, I forgot to mention that there is another big force here. At this time, Lin Ling seemed to be rubbing salt on the wound and said another sentence. There is more. The hearts of the experts from the Divine Mountain seem to have fallen into the abyss. This son of the devil was never done. Currently, the experts on Lin Ling's side might not be able to stop the Blood Skull King's resurrection, even if they used all their strength. And now there was more. Fuck. Even though these ancient experts had calm temperaments, they couldn't help but curse at this moment. Ka. In fact, there was indeed another big force in the sky. Looking around, there were divine beasts all over the sky. A huge phoenix was flying over with those divine beasts. This phoenix was very strange. It actually had the Azure Dragon armor. It looked like a dragon and a phoenix. On top of the phoenix was an expressionless woman. She wore a standard robe and gave off a very serious feeling. Coupled with those emotionless eyes, she looked like a puppet. Shigue clan. Everyone's face was full of disbelief. The Shigue clan had concealed their identity for tens of thousands of years and didn't have any contact with outsiders. Moreover, the son of the devil wasn't from the same era as them. It was impossible for him to know them. But now the Shigue clan had joined Lin Ling's side. Son of the devil, son of the devil. All the experts shouted. The voices of people like the Flying Dragon Organization and the Fuxing Manor were the loudest. This was because they knew that things were getting troublesome. With the help of the experts on Lin Ling's side, it would be very difficult for them to destroy the Blood Skull King's fragments in a short period of time. No, not in a short period of time. They were afraid that they couldn't do it anymore. If all of them were here and not injured, they might be able to destroy the Blood Skull King's fragments in a month's time. But with the current people, it was absolutely impossible. Therefore, everyone hated Lin Ling. Lin Ling's strength was not as strong as theirs, but he had stopped them at the critical moment, which was even more terrible than a fatal blow. Most importantly, Lin Ling was very cunning. Although he had so many experts to help him, he had come alone at the beginning, which made everyone careless and let them see him stalling for time. Kill him. Duan Wuhan's heart was full of shame. If it weren't for his confidence, this situation wouldn't have happened. Kill. Chapter 3447. The martial god had arrived. Please, senior. In the face of Duan Wuhan's fury, Lin Ling just smiled casually. Haha. In the sky, the 9th God Eye and the other experts laughed and rushed down, erupting with powerful forces to clash with Duan Wuhan's group. The 9th God Eye was also the happiest. After being trapped for so many years, he could finally take revenge today. Therefore, he was extremely merciless, killing a large number of Duan family experts. Senior 9th, your great enemy, Flame Emperor, is over there. At this moment, Lin Ling said something at an inappropriate time. On Duan Wuhan's side, an old man's expression changed greatly, and then he glared hatefully at Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling just spread out his hands and showed an innocent look, as if to say, I know you hate me, but you can't kill me. Flame Emperor. The 9th God Eye immediately locked onto Flame Emperor, because Flame Emperor was the one he wanted to kill the most. Son of Demon, you and I cannot live under the same sky. Flame Emperor roared, no longer daring to play with the Divine Mountain, and fled into the distance. The ninth god I followed closely. Today, he only needed to face Flame Emperor, so he had to kill him. Because the other experts on Duan Wuhan's side would be dealt with by the Creation Alliance. A fierce battle broke out on the Divine Mountain. Blood spilled on the ground and was absorbed by the Divine Mountain. You guys work harder. The Blood Skull King is about to revive. While everyone was fighting, Lin Ling's indifferent voice occasionally floated out. This made Duan Wuhan and the others even more furious. Moreover, because they were anxious to destroy the Blood Skull King's fragments, they could not display their strength and were forced to retreat by the experts of the Creation Alliance. Lin Ling stood next to the Blood Skull King, a cold smile on his face. However, he was also surprised by the battle in Martial Ancestor's world. He could not get involved in this kind of battle unless he stepped into the Martial Ancestor realm. Then he stared at the She-Ghost clan and was secretly surprised. The She-Ghost clan had sent out all puppets. They seemed to be inanimate objects, but each puppet had intelligence. It was extremely strange. Moreover, these puppets' fighting strength was extremely tyrannical. Crack! Crack! After a full hour, the crisp sound of bones breaking finally rang out. Next to Lin Ling, the gigantic blood skeleton slowly stood up. It was even bigger than before because all the skeletons had been absorbed by the Blood Skeleton King. At this moment, he had most likely transformed into the Blood Skull Emperor. A ferocious aura emanated from the Blood Skull Emperor, causing everyone to tremble with fear. The battle on the Divine Mountain came to a complete halt. The huge Blood Skull King stared at Duan Wuhan and the others with its empty eye sockets, making them swallow their saliva with difficulty. They knew that the battle to the death had arrived. The previous Blood Skull King was already so difficult to deal with. How powerful would the resurrected Blood Skull Emperor be? It was simply unimaginable. Their fate seemed to be total annihilation. Ka. The Blood Skull King suddenly disappeared and turned into a bloody light, rushing towards Duan Wuhan and the others. In midair, a huge skeleton fist smashed down. The Blood Skull didn't attack Lin Ling and the others. Instead, they took the initiative to attack Duan Wuhan and the others. Rumble. After the resurrection, the Blood Skull King was much more powerful than before. When the hard skeleton fist smashed down, not many people could withstand it. Immediately, half of the experts of the Fu Xing Manor were killed. Retreat! Ningbo Tao shouted at the crowd. He was already planning to leave the Divine Mountain. Everyone felt as if their hearts were being cut by a knife. They had sacrificed so much and so many people had died. Were they going to return empty-handed? Wuhan, you can't even do such a small thing. You disappoint me. However, at this moment, an old voice suddenly floated in the air. As soon as this voice came out, everyone felt as if flowers were blooming and withering, as if they were going to die of old age. It was a feeling of loneliness and helplessness. Even though the experts on the Divine Mountain were in the Martial Ancestor realm and had seen countless deaths, they were still affected by this voice. Ancestor! Duan Wuhan was stunned at first, and then he shouted in surprise. Ancestor! The experts of the Flying Dragon organization were also overjoyed. The Duan family was the #1 family in the ultimate world. Behind them was one of the top 10 martial gods in the 9 prefectures. Furthermore, this person was ranked very high among the top 10 martial gods. This was why the Duan family called him the Ancestor. This meant that a martial god had arrived. Even the giant Blood Skull King was looking into the distance with its empty eye sockets. The sky in the distance was still a starry world. However, ripples began to appear like the growth rings of a tree, spreading out layer by layer. Heavenly chakra. Some experts mumbled to themselves. They had heard of the Duan family's ancestors' talent. It was said that this was the talent of a god. The life chakra that could control thousands of lives and strengthen one's body, making one indestructible. Endless life chakra bloomed in the sky like a flower blooming continuously. However, it was extremely sacred, and the light of treasures soared into the sky. At the center of the life chakra, a white figure walked out. It was as if he was walking in his own garden. Although his pace was not fast, he instantly appeared in front of everyone. This was a man wearing a white robe with a head of flowing white hair. He looked to be in his 40s and was extremely handsome. The white robe fluttered along with the life chakra, giving people the feeling of a god. His indifferent eyes looked at the sacred mountain, like an ancient well without any ripples. It was as if nothing in the world could move him. Duan lineage martial god. One of the top 10 martial gods of the 9 regions. All the experts on the sacred mountain, whether they were friends or foes, held their breaths at this moment. For them, the martial god of the 9 regions brought them too much pressure. And this was the number 1 person below the god level. Ancestor. Duan Wuhan quickly knelt down, not daring to look at the white-haired man. The man nodded. His eyes swept across the sacred mountain and also passed over Lin Ling. Of course, he only glanced at Lin Ling slightly. Most of his attention was still on the Blood Skull King. Obviously, he seemed to know Lin Ling because Lin Ling had once destroyed a god. However, he did not care about Lin Ling. To be able to let him look at Lin Ling was a great blessing, because other experts, even the 9-lantern fish, were not qualified for him to look at. Blood Skull King. The man let out a cold voice. He stretched out his palm and circles of ripples spread out. Kaka! The Blood Skull King obviously knew that the white-haired man was the real enemy. Although it was very close to the martial god level, it was still a demigod. It seemed to be a difference of a few words, but in fact, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. As long as it did not become a god, everything was fleeting. Bang! The Blood Skull King stomped on the sacred mountain, causing it to shake violently. Then, it rushed into the sky and fought the white-haired man. Time like a painting. Chapter 34-48. Retreat. Looking from a distance, one tall and one short, one big and one small, there seemed to be no suspense in the battle. However, when the huge skeleton emperor's fist collided with the white-haired man's fist, blood spurted out, and the skeleton emperor was smashed back to the sacred mountain. The entire sacred mountain was filled with dust. Duan Wuhan and the others smiled excitedly. The ancestor was really powerful. Picturesque landscape. At this moment, the white-haired man spat out a sentence and punched out again. A miracle had appeared. Hundreds of flowers bloomed around the originally lonely divine mountain. Countless plants grew. This was no longer a barren land. It was simply a world full of life. What a terrifying means. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. However, the blood skeleton emperor was still unafraid of death. As soon as it hit the ground, it immediately rushed to the sky and collided with the white-haired man's fist. Rumble. When the 2 fists collided, the white-haired man's fist hit the blood skeleton emperor's arm, and cracks immediately appeared on the blood skeleton emperor's arm. Previously, when all the powerhouses joined forces, countless people had died, and they had exhausted all their strength to crack the blood skeleton emperor's arm. But the Duan lineage martial god only needed 2 punches. Lin Ling, retreat immediately. The 10 martial gods of 9 regions are not people we can resist. While Lin Ling was surprised by the strength of the 2 martial gods, the voice of 9 lanterns fish Lu Chen came. Leave. The woman of the Guishi tribe also said coldly. Obviously, they knew that the situation was hopeless. If they were late to escape, it was possible that they would be wiped out. Martial god powerhouses. Lin Ling clenched his fists. In this battle, he had grasped the right time, the right place, and the right people. He could have killed all his enemies, but who knew that the arrival of the martial god would reverse the situation? In the face of powerful strength, no matter if it was a conspiracy or an overt plot, everything was useless. You want to leave? Ningbo Tao and the others obviously knew what Lin Ling was thinking. Although they could not stop Lin Ling and the others from joining forces, as long as they could buy some time. And when the Duan lineage martial god killed the blood skeleton emperor, Lin Ling and the others would die. Haha. When they thought of this, they couldn't help but laugh. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. At this moment, Lin Ling must be in great pain. After all, he was supposed to win. Boom. However, just as they were about to attack Lin Ling and the others, a huge skeleton fist smashed down. The experts of the Flying Dragon organization were unable to react in time, and half of them were instantly killed. Rivers of blood flowed, and all of it was absorbed by the divine mountain. Then, in front of Lin Ling, a tall blood skull emperor stood there, as if its head was the sky and its feet were on the ground. Everyone was stunned. The blood skull emperor was actually helping Lin Ling. This was too enviable. Even Lin Ling was a little surprised. He hadn't expected the blood skeleton to have intelligence. Previously, he had helped the blood skeleton, and now the blood skeleton was helping him, Lin Ling. Crack, crack. The blood skeleton's body was full of cracks, but it was like an invincible warrior, and it still did not fall. Moreover, it turned to look at Lin Ling, and its empty eye sockets quietly looked at Lin Ling. For some reason, Lin Ling felt that it seemed to be saying something. However, Lin Ling did not understand what it was saying. After all, he was not a skeleton. Kunlun. On the contrary, the vine on Lin Ling's left arm seemed to have come alive, and it made a sound, and it kept shouting anxiously at Lin Ling. Lin Ling and Lilb Kunlun had a tacit understanding, so Lin Ling understood what Lilb Kunlun was saying. His expression kept changing. Let's go, the Blood Skull Emperor can't stop the martial god. If we don't leave now, we will all be wiped out. Lin Ling shouted loudly, and then he shot into the sky. Ancestor, don't let him escape. How could Duan Wuhan let Lin Ling escape? He also shouted, 60% of our Duan family's people are dead, and it's all Lin Ling's fault. However, the white-haired man stood quietly in the sky and did not move. He said indifferently, don't worry about ants. The divine treasury is our priority now. Obviously, he knew that it would be difficult for him to kill Lin Ling and the others if the Blood Skull Emperor did not die. Even if he could kill them, the Blood Skull Emperor would also kill the Duan family's people, and that was not what he wanted to see. For him, the divine treasury was the most important thing. He would have plenty of opportunities to kill ants like the Creation Alliance in the future. Go! At this moment, Lin Ling shouted again, and the experts of the Great Devil Sect became restless. Crack, crack, crack. However, the Blood Skull Emperor immediately blocked them, and it seemed that if they dared to move, they would all kill them. The experts of the Great Devil Sect did not dare to move. Let them escape. After all, the divine treasury is in our hands. That's right, ha ha ha. Our original goal was the divine treasury. As long as we get it, everything else is trivial. There will be plenty of opportunities to kill the demon's son in the future. Then the experts laughed. Although they could not kill the demon's son, they wanted to annoy him. After all, they had won. In the end, the divine treasury belonged to them. Bastard! At this moment, Lin Ling led 9 Lantern Fish, Lu Chun, and the others into the distance. 9 Lantern Fish, Lu Chun, cursed angrily. If the Duan lineage martial god had not come, they would not have run away. Damn it! This was originally a battlefield for martial ancestors, and the Duan lineage martial god had suddenly joined in. How shameless! Not long after, the 9th god's eye caught up with Lin Ling and the others. He had killed the Flame Emperor, and when he found out what had happened, his face turned extremely ugly. Lin Ling did not say a word and led them all the way forward. Finally, they arrived at the periphery of the Starry Sky Forest. Lin Ling stopped and looked indifferently into the distance. The divine treasury is not that easy to take. If we don't leave, we will all die. After looking for a while, Lin Ling said softly. He was still in shock. Lin Ling, what do you mean? 9 Lantern Fish Lu Chun was puzzled. The real divine bone is about to be unearthed. Lin Ling turned to look at him and said word by word. This was what Lil Kunlun had told him, and Lil Kunlun had found out from the Blood Skull Emperor. The Blood Skull Emperor had asked Lin Ling and the others to leave immediately. What? Everyone was immediately shocked. The Blood Skull Emperor was not a divine bone? Such a terrifying existence was not a divine bone? Moreover, the treasure in the lake was not a divine bone. The real divine bone was only unearthed now? This news was earth-shattering. Everyone was even more in awe of the divine realm. The real show has only just begun. All of them will die. No more than 10 people will survive. Lin Ling said again, his eyes cold. The 9th god's eye and the others immediately gasped. They were even more curious about the divine bone that had yet to be unearthed. At this moment, the battle on the divine mountain was still ongoing. The huge Blood Skull Emperor could not stop the martial god at all, and had his arms broken. Duan Wuhan and the others kept laughing like victorious generals. Some of them were even more excited. They waved at the Blood Skull Emperor and said, "Little skeleton, aren't you very good at fighting? Come on, come on." They had suffered too much before, so they were venting their grievances at this moment. Ka ka ka. Even though the tall Blood Skull Emperor had lost his arms, he still stood tall like a pine tree, guarding the divine mountain like a giant. Chapter 3449. What a terrifying sea of skeletons. The white-haired man looked at Blood Skull Emperor indifferently, shook his head, and said, "You are a figure of the era of the gods, but history has changed and the gods are gone. Now it is our era. I see that you are a proud person, so I will give you a chance. Surrender to me, and I will spare your life." Atop the divine mountain, Blood Skull Emperor quietly looked at the sky, not making any sound. However, its empty eye sockets revealed a trace of disdain. The white-haired man immediately nodded. He stretched out his hand and circles of ripples spread out. Then he suddenly clenched his fist and punched down. Time chakra. Layers upon layers of space exploded, and with the fist as the center, it collapsed in all directions. The Blood Skull Emperor was still indifferent. Under the punch, he was smashed into pieces and countless bone fragments sputtered in all directions. Dead. Duan Wuhan and the others smiled. This time, the Blood Skull Emperor was finally dead. Go and take all the treasures. After killing the Blood Skull Queen, the white-haired man's expression remained calm. Yes. Everyone was overjoyed. Finally, no one could stop them. They shot to the top of the mountain and then looked at the ancient lake excitedly. On the ancient lake, there was a small boat with a treasure chest on it, giving off a mysterious aura. Divine bone, divinity in one step. Duan Wuhan and the others licked their lips and were about to make a move. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The entire sacred mountain suddenly shook. Blood gushed out from the ground and flowed towards the ancient lake. Terrifying. His blood was flowing backward. Gulyalu. The ancient lake at the peak of the godly mountain quietly turned the color of blood. Ancestor, what's going on? Duan Wuhan and the others quickly looked at the Duan lineage martial god. Uneasiness rose in their hearts. The white-haired man also frowned. Even with his experience, he couldn't tell what was going to happen. Suddenly, he shouted anxiously, "Leave immediately." Gulyalu. At the same time, a skeletal arm quietly stretched out from the bottom of the ancient lake. This skeletal arm was completely black and emitted a blinding luster. This caused many people's pupils to constrict. Could that be the divine bone? Rumble. Finally, a change occurred. The entire divine mountain seemed to be overturned. A large number of strange black plants rushed into the sky. As if they had been covered in dust for countless years, they were frantically growing. These plants were also extremely ferocious. Their branches and leaves were like skeletons, and their flowers were like heads. Most importantly, there were so many of these plants that not only did they drown the entire godly mountain, but even the ground near the godly mountain was covered in black skeletal vines. In just a few breaths of time, the ground had already turned into a black ocean, as if countless black skeletons were piled up there. These skeletal vines eventually turned into a black sea that drowned everything. Not good. The white-robed man shouted and stretched out his left hand. A blue light appeared and turned into a vortex. At the same time, he stretched out his right hand and a red light followed. The two rays of light were combined by him. Celestial chakra. An earth-shattering voice floated out from his mouth. He had obviously sensed that something was wrong. As for the powerhouses on Divine Mountain, their faces had already turned pale from fright. In front of him was no longer a divine mountain. It was simply a sea of skeletons. The sea was endless, devouring the heavens and earth. Duan Wuhan, Ningbo Tao, and the rest were all trembling. Suddenly, they thought of Lin Ling and the rest from before. Lin Ling and the rest were so fast that they actually escaped from this terrifying sea of skeletons. Damn it! At this moment, everyone started cursing out loud. Previously, they were still proudly clamoring because they had won this battle. Who knew that they were the real losers? What is a mere sea of skeletons? I will stop him. A powerhouse of the great devil sect roared and summoned a large number of demon beasts to rush forward. However, the black skeletons flooded over and the powerhouse immediately disappeared without a trace. He was directly submerged and could not be stopped. Most likely, his corpse was not left behind. On Divine Mountain, the powerhouses were even more panicked. However, the black plants on the ground grew crazily. Black light soared into the sky and immediately drowned them. Any method was useless. Could it be that the so-called god bone is actually not an inanimate object? The white-haired man floated in the sky and suddenly guessed something in his heart. The god bone had been unearthed. This did not mean that a treasure had been unearthed, but that a certain god from the god's era had been resurrected. Rumble. The endless black skeletons began to flood toward the white-haired man at an extremely fast speed. Celestial chakra. The white-haired man knew that there was no way to escape. He held the horrifying fate wheel in his hand and rushed forward. Looking from afar, the scene was extremely spectacular. Countless black skeletons formed an ocean and rushed toward the man. At the moment of collision, a horrifying force burst out, and the forest of stars seemed to be destroyed. In a place far away, Lin Ling and the rest looked at this scene with pale faces. It felt as if a man was fighting against heaven. No matter how powerful a man was, he was nothing but a speck of dust in front of heaven. The martial god of Duan Meridian is so powerful. It seems that he has blocked the Sea of Skeletons. Could it be that the Sea of Skeletons are the skeletons of the fallen gods from the gods' era? What is ahead is simply forbidden. 9 Lanterns Fish and Lu Chen said in horror. Rumble. At this moment, the white-haired man held the celestial chakra in his hand and resisted the Sea of Skeletons. The rotating chakra in his hand emitted a light and blocked the Sea of Skeletons. However, he didn't look surprised at all. Instead, he looked more and more dignified. Looking up, he saw an even larger Sea of Skeletons coming from the horizon. In the Sea of Skeletons, an ancient giant tree formed by skeletons grew up. On the trunk of the tree, there were human heads flowing. The branches were thigh bones. There were also heads blooming on the leaves. This tree was simply the most ancient forbidden in the 9 regions. Rumble. A new wave of skeletons came, which made the white-haired man know that he had lost the upper hand. I asked the heavens, where is the chakra? The white-haired man murmured to himself. A tree ring appeared on his chest, and he patted his chest with both hands. Boom! Circles of light burst out and pushed back the Sea of Skeletons. However, in just a moment, the Sea of Skeletons came again. However, the white-haired man had disappeared. In the distant sky, he stood there quietly with a gloomy face. Previously, he had tried his best to escape. At this moment, he knew that he had come here in vain. He was holding 2 people in each hand. They were Duan Wuhan and Ningbo Tao. Today, all the heroes of the 9 regions were here to seize the divine treasure. However, they were all wiped out. Only the 3 of them were left alive. It had to be said that this was shocking news. Martial ancestor. There were even peak martial ancestor experts. Unfortunately, none of them were left alive. If this news spread to the 9 regions, the entire 9 regions would be in turmoil. Let's go. The white-haired man watched for a moment and finally disappeared. Rumble. Chapter 3450. The mysterious intruder from the cave. In the distance, Lin Ling and the others didn't dare to stay and retreated. Today, they hadn't obtained any treasures. But they didn't care, because compared to Duan Wuhan's group, Lin Ling's group hadn't been completely wiped out. The treasures of a god were indeed not so easy to obtain. Everyone hurried on with their journey without stopping for a full 3 days. They only rested when the rumbling sounds in the distance became softer. But looking at the distant sky, there was still a tinge of black that made their hearts palpitate. Luckily, Lin Ling, if you hadn't reminded us, we would have been completely wiped out today. After resting for a while, Lu Chen of the 9 Lanterns Fish sighed as he looked at Lin Ling. He had an extremely good relationship with Lin Ling. In the past, Lin Ling had saved his wife, White Fox, and after that, he had repeatedly helped Lin Ling. But he hadn't expected that in such a short period of time, that Qingzhou Jr. had entered the strongest world of the 9 provinces. Moreover, he was extremely famous. If this had happened a few decades ago, he would never have imagined it. It was little Kunlun who reminded me. Lin Ling still felt some lingering fear, but he still smiled. Don't think so much. In any case, we're still alive, so we've profited. The 9th god, I laughed heartily. But his words were indeed true. The other factions had been completely wiped out, but they were still alive. This was definitely a great fortune amidst the misfortune. Around them, the woman in the standard robe glanced at Lin Ling and said, I have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Lin Ling, if you meet Prince Emogene, tell him to return to the Tin Ghost race. I have important matters to discuss with him. This woman was related to Prince Emogene of the Godslayer Alliance, so she had helped Lin Ling before. Her only regret was that she had come to the Starry Sky Forest for nothing. However, she didn't blame anyone because the calamity from before was obvious to all. Okay. Lin Ling immediately nodded. The woman nodded. She rode on the phoenix and disappeared with a large number of puppets. Lin Ling, it's time for me to leave. As soon as the woman left, 9 Lantern Fish Lu Chen stood up and smiled at Lin Ling. Lin Ling also knew that Senior Lu Chen was the leader of the Creation Alliance and had a lot of things to do, so he immediately bowed. The waters of the final world are very deep. There are many divine knights. Lin Ling, don't lose to them. I wish you good luck. A huge 9-lantern fish appeared in the sky and flew away with the experts of the Creation Alliance. Those experts also waved goodbye to Lin Ling obviously. After several encounters, they were already familiar with Lin Ling. Furthermore, they were looking forward to Lin Ling's complete growth and becoming the ultimate ruler of this world. Let's go too. After everyone left, Lin Ling looked at the ninth god Eye. The ninth god Eye was undoubtedly in a good mood, because more than half of his enemies were dead. He took the criminals and followed Lin Ling into the distance. Following the ninth god Eye, Lin Ling felt depressed because he still hadn't found the Mahanata mantra. Not long after, Lin Ling and the ninth god Eye temporarily settled down in an ancient cave. After all, there was still a year until the new disciple trial, so Lin Ling couldn't be bothered to run around. All the criminals returned to the periphery of the starry sky forest. Lin Ling used this time to cultivate and raise his cultivation level. At present, he was still a 5th-stage saint, and his strongest talent was the 2nd-grade spacetime god Eye. However, his heavenly dragon bone, great netherwind dragon, and realm-devouring beast all had extraordinary potential, surpassing the spacetime god Eye. It was just that he hadn't encountered a suitable opportunity to raise his talent yet. While he was cultivating, a strange feeling suddenly surged into his mind. Kill! 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 The scene that appeared in his mind was the great war of gods and demons. Countless ancient gods clashed against each other. Fight for the world consciousness. Because of your appearance, the order of this world has been disrupted. The world consciousness does not permit your existence. The world consciousness wants to destroy this world. The great war of gods and demons was extremely intense. Countless gods fell and countless demon gods were defeated. Blood flowed like rivers. Corpses piled up. The 9 provinces and the myriad worlds were destroyed. This war lasted for 10,000 years, and in the end, countless gods and demon gods fell. Only then did the war gradually die out. The destroyed 9 provinces and the myriad worlds should have become a land of death. But for some reason, this world was like bamboo shoots after the rain, and life once more began to spread. All of this contained the most profound order of the world, the great Tao, origin, intent, and even primal chaos. This was the most mysterious existence in the world. Lin Ling quietly watched all of this like a spectator. The intensity of the war made his blood boil. The deathly stillness after the war made him feel depressed. However, the chance of survival that followed made him understand something. Destroying the world was, in fact, creating the world. This seemed to be what the world consciousness wanted to say. The world consciousness, what is this? Lin Ling muttered to himself. At this moment, he did not realize that his soul power was crazily increasing. It gradually reached 12,000 steps. Your comprehension ability is indeed extraordinary. At this moment, a cold and emotionless voice rang in Lin Ling's mind. This made Lin Ling's expression change, and he subconsciously opened his eyes. Unknowingly, a man was standing in front of him. This man was tall and sturdy, and he wore a black armor. He stood there quietly, as if he was an unreasonable great Tao power. When did this person appear in the cave? Senior Ninth did not notice? Lin Ling was shocked. Then, he realized that there was a small skeleton half the height of a human standing beside this man. At this moment, this skeleton was quietly looking at Lin Ling. Those empty eye sockets gave Lin Ling a familiar feeling. But at this moment, he could not remember where he had seen this small skeleton. Lin Ling did not know whether this person was an enemy or a friend. But even if he was an enemy, with his current strength, he could not resist. So he asked, Senior, those illusions were brought by you. That's right. The man nodded. His whole person was like a puppet. His voice was very cold, but there was no emotion in it. However, I did not expect that you would be able to comprehend something in that illusion. However, this can be considered as your opportunity. You saved it, so I should return the favor to you. However, I discovered that you have the auras of several old friends. It seems that the karma between us is not shallow. The man said again. Lin Ling was confused for a moment. Saved it? He could not help but look at the small skeleton. Suddenly, a terrible thought arose in his mind. Could it be that the small skeleton was the blood skeleton emperor? Moreover, it was not dead. Then this person in front of him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.